Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Coffee and Takes podcast. I'm very privileged today to be joined by my very own barber, even though I haven't had my haircut with you in about 2 months now. Izza, thanks for coming onto the podcast. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
We're going to be talking about barbering today. It's a skill set which I highly admire and respect, a skill set which I believe many men that are watching this podcast are probably curious about. Some may be involved in it already. But before we dive into all of that, if you can just introduce yourself and how you got into barbering.
Cool. Thank you. So my name is Izza. On Instagram, I go with different aliases. But generally, a lot of people just know me as Izza the barber.
If you just bring the mic a little bit closer. That's it. Yep.
So the journey kind of started 6 years ago. It was a really weird transitioning from my last career, which was in IT. And then I don't know, I stumbled into it. I never really chased it, which was a pleasant surprise into it. And then I just grew from there, really. So about 6 years ago is when I first made the initial change.
6 years. So you were in IT, and what caught your eye about barbering especially?
Again, it's not that anything caught my eye because I wasn't chasing it. It was more of, I didn't know what to do after IT.
And how old were you when you were pursuing IT?
When I was pursuing IT.
Oh, well, you work in IT, yeah.
When I came straight out, I think it was around 20-ish, 19, 20 when I got into it. So I was starting out as like a help desk analyst, like a first line technician, just nothing special, resetting passwords here and there. And then I kind of blagged my way into 8 years and ended up becoming a network engineer.
Oh, okay.
So that was pretty cool because I started to learn a lot about the industry of technology. And I think at the time it was more a case I was doing it more or less because it was a trend. There was a lot more of my friends who were in IT. I was good with the computers, but I just didn't think I would find a career. It's not something that I wanted to focus on. But like we all do, come out of university, find the first thing that you want to get into. And that was it that I walked into. So it was a weird 8 years after that because I was always just opening the door here, a door there, just trying to see what this is, what that is. And eventually just led me into, I think it was my mouth, the gift of the gab. Because you're good on the phones, if you can build rapport with customers, that's where it leads, that's where it begins. So you can...
Would you say you wanted something where you could interact with people and maybe be away from the desk and have a change of environment? Was that what sort of spurred the decision? Because you probably came across or had the thought about barbering, but what made you take the step to leave your IT background?
I did not... all right, so in the first 8 years of doing the working in IT, it was more of a case where could I see myself in another 8 years doing what I've been doing? Because I've been at a desk, 35, 40 hours in, you're getting told how much you're earning, you're getting told how many holidays a year you get to go on. It's you're caged. And it got to a point where I was just like, I need freedom, my bosses tried to sway me into field work, coming out of the office and actually going into buildings and working on their infrastructure. But I was like, that's another 8 years of the same thing, I need a change, I need a switch. So it was when I had left, I spent about 8-9 months not knowing what to get into, trying this, trying that.
So you were in that transitionary period, you were looking at a few different industries, and then how did you get into barbering from that point? Did you take a course after that?
No, so the a very long time ago, in secondary school, a friend of mine, could I mention his name?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So Manny, he's still my customer till this day. Day one, good friend to me. And I had the very first time I exposed myself into barbering was when we were in school in the toilets, and I was giving him a shape up with a blade. No cutthroat, no machines, no nothing. I was just trying to shape him up in the toilets, and I had water as lubricant, just so it doesn't scratch him up or anything. But
And how old were you then?
This is, I think, year 9, year 10.
Yeah, because some guys they grow beards early. I wasn't one of those, unfortunately.
So I had no clue what I was doing, but I knew to create shape, and that's what I did. So that very first introduction to barbering was when I was in school. And I was playing around my friend's hairline because he just wanted to get cleaned up. Yeah. After that day, never ever touched barber, never lingered into it. It never was something that I was like, oh, I want to be a barber. That was it. That ended that day. And then it wasn't until I came back from traveling. I had gone traveling during the time when I left the IT.
Where did you go?
I went back home to Africa, went to go see some family. My aunt was in America, so I had the chance to kind of travel here and there just to kind of get away from the corporate life. It wasn't around that period where I had come back and I went to go and see Manny, my original friend who I first. And when I had gone to see Manny, it was at his place, at his house, and we were just catching up. And he had said to me, you know, we were talking about what's your next move going to be? What's your next move going to be? And Barbering, it might have popped up for like 20 seconds. It didn't really register up until I had gone home. And I thought, wait, what about barbering? What is this industry? Because I would be the guy who would finish work in the office, go to the barbershop, sit amongst everyone else in the queue, wait for my haircut, go home and get ready for the weekend, and never think about, could I be a barber?
Yeah.
Even during my time as an IT consultant, I never considered barbering as the change. It was only until I had gone for my haircut and I met and bumped into one of the OG barbers in Milton Keynes. His name is Nyam. Nyam, if anyone watches this podcast from Milton Keynes and is a regular, you know, guy who likes to look good and go to the barbershop, they're going to know and hear of Nyam.
Okay.
Nyam was a barber who was based in Wolverton. And he worked in a shop called Buzzin. Shout out to Cholo, he's the owner of the shop.
Nice.
He gave me the opportunity to come down there and just basically shadow him. Because when I first originally run this through my mum and told her I wanted to be a barber, she said, go see Cholo. So Cholo was family friends. Him and my mum and him, same age, they would, it was a family, you know, family friend. So she was the one who advised me, go over there and seek the help you need. So when I got there, yeah, you know, I was welcomed and it was nice for them to say, oh, you want to be a barber? Great transition. It's going to be a great journey for you. You know, we're looking forward to this. Boom, boom, boom. So it gives you that kind of, I made the right choice, you know, I'm in the right direction now. Yeah. So I was very, very lucky. I think this is the most crucial part of my career. I was very, very lucky to have been, to have been a mentor to who I consider one of the best barbers in Milton Keynes. So to be able to stand behind him and listen and just watch him, it was more valuable than anything I've ever done because that's what planted the seed into my mind.
Yeah, it gave you a glimpse of what it could be like day to day if you were to pursue this.
Big time.
And what did you enjoy the most from shadowing him?
That energy that was buzzing between him and the customer. Because, okay, the barbershop is predominantly East African. So a lot of the customers that will come there are going to be people that you know. East Africa is a community that's heavily Islamic. So a lot of the people that you pray with on Jumu'ah prayers on Friday are going to be the same customers you see in the barbershop. So a lot of it is family orientated. You do see your community in there. And it was more of a case of, I know this customer, I know Nyam, but look at what they're talking about. It has nothing to do with barbering. He's doing this effortlessly. He's flowing through this guy's haircut. But they're they're talking about the World Cup. They're talking about back home in Africa, holidays. They're talking about business opportunities. It had nothing to do with the job. So I think that was kind of like what drew me into like, what is this? I want to know more. Yeah. Because there was that energy that they were creating, and I was just like, okay, I like this.
That is one thing I absolutely admire about good barbers, is their ability to conversate with you and have a catch up with you. And sometimes it's therapeutic. I mean, we spoke about this briefly when I came and had my haircut with you, about how a lot of guys go to the barber shop and for them it's a release. They have someone that will listen to them. I mean, I'm assuming this is a good communicator and somebody who's good with people, because some barbers won't say a word to you. Yeah. And I want to get your perspective on what makes a barber great at what he does. Okay. But, you mentioned the individual that you were shadowing, his ability to communicate with everyone, have a catch up. And it's probably one thing that's probably great about him as well is his ability to communicate with people from all sorts of different age ranges, backgrounds, and make everyone feel welcome. Because some people may be good communicators with others that are of a similar age to them, but he was able to probably communicate very well with everybody. Yep. The kids, the older folks as well that come there.
That's true. I worked with an individual, I won't say his name just for the sake of protecting him, but I worked with a young barber once, and he's exactly what you described. He was the kind of barber that was very shy. He was introverted, and he was good at his job. if he just worked on that confidence, that kind of people skill, he would have been able to create good opportunities for himself, because he was young and he was a quick learner and he was able to understand the how barbering flows, especially, you know, when the customer's in your chair and you're about to do what you do. Especially this time and age where haircuts are becoming more and more trendy, the younger the person who wants to venture into barbering, the better, because it's such an ideal time for them to grasp into it. So when I had worked with the barber who was very, very shy, what I found was it ruined his responsibilities as a barber, in the sense where he could do the job, but it was 60% done. The other 40% was awkward. They were hardly ever talking. The conversation wasn't flowing. So it was the case of the customer coming in, sitting down, telling what he wants. You know, you had a good day, mate? Yeah, not bad. Okay, cool. That was it.
Yeah, because, you know, you don't need to overdo it, but I think just having some small talk makes someone feel comfortable. Because some people are going in there for the first time and they're probably a bit nervous. And this is a big gamble for me. I'm in a new area.
And that's where the difference between this barber and Nyam stood a difference, because, for instance, I worked in IT, but then prior to IT was just normal retail jobs, customer service jobs. So what you gain from that is the ability to be able to have a relationship that you can build with a customer, whether it's on the phone, whether it's face to face, but you are practicing this, you're building this, you know, confidence level of yourself. When you get onto the phones and you're working in corporate, your whole rapport building changes, because now you're not trying to impress someone with your nice haircut or your great smile. It's more or less you're winning them over by everything you have to say on the phone, everything on your voice. So you then filter out those people who are well spoken, those people who can know when to tell a joke and know when to be serious on the phone. So those people become really good call handlers. Those that can turn an angry customer into a customer that can say, okay, I understand, no problem. I'm not super happy, but I'm okay now. Those are powerful people, because they have the ability to change your mood, to change how you feel, for better or for worse. So imagine taking an individual who's accumulated those experience, who's accumulated those skill sets to be able to talk with people of different ages, as you say, whether it's a 7-year-old boy, whether it's a 7-year-old veteran. There has to be some way that barber can transmute their energy to that individual, where that individual feels welcomed. He feels as though the haircut was an honest enough job, he wasn't robbed, and he was definitely going to come back. So once you build those skill sets, I think that's why I enjoyed the 8 years of IT. I think that's why I enjoyed the customer service retails before, because being a barber was easy. Having people skills became a lot more easier. So that was the difference what I found with the young barber that I worked with. He lacked that. And I think that's where his drive failed him. So when I step into the barbering spotlight now, I'm bringing you this customer service where we can bust joke, we can talk about this, we can talk about that. Let it be about football, let it be about the war, let it be about history, about culture, about religion. Let's talk about what's on TV. Whatever the case whatever the subject may be, however we're going to have a conversation, you and I are going to end up having a good laugh. And again, that's what you return. That's what you get back in abundance. You get the returning customer. You need to go see this barber, mate. He's brilliant. He made me feel amazing. You get that. Everything flows back once you release that pure nature. So I think it's between the relationship that you can have as a people's person, and then knowing your craft, knowing how to do your job. Because that also goes back to Nyam. When I first watched Nyam, I was watching him build a rapport. I was watching him talk to customers that he'd been cutting for 20 years.
That's incredible.
You know, so it's beautiful to see that. And I think that's where you shine as a barber.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's something I pay attention to, because in every barbershop that I've ever walked in, I always observe the dynamic in the barbershop, the conversations that are being had. I noticed that some barbers carry themselves in such a way, it almost looks like they don't want to be there. And then other barbers are just having fun, they're fist bumping everyone, they're having their coffee. You can tell that this is something they're doing because they love speaking with people and they love putting a smile on somebody's face. And, you know, I wanted to ask you actually, you know, how sacred is barbering to you? Because I know some people take it very seriously because they perceive it as a lot more than just cutting someone's hair. It's I'm going to give this guy a boost of confidence. As soon as he's out that door, he's ready to take on the world because he feels like a different man. Is that something you bear in mind when you're cutting someone's hair? Do you think about that?
Yeah. It's. I love to answer this question because a lot of people ask me a similar question to this, and they say, why do you love your work? Why do you enjoy doing what you do? One, I never chased this. I did not chase barbering. I stumbled into it. Barbering found me. When it found me, I then had an organic approach to it. I wasn't forcing myself into something that I felt I was doing, like IT. I felt that was a bit of a force. I didn't want to become an IT consultant, but I came into the industry just because of coming out of university. So with the whole barbering thing, it was more of a case of this was so organic, I had to see what I can get out of it if I just applied myself. Working in that shop in Wolverton was awesome because I was taught probably how to cut hair in the most difficult environments when it comes to hair. Afro-Caribbean hair is anybody could argue that Afro-Caribbean is the hardest hair to be able to master and craft.
Why is that?
I think it's the growth of the hair. So I was told this in barber school. My mentor said to me, or my teacher, she had said to me during the time, she said, if you can pay attention to a Caucasian or an Asian, that individual's hair, you'll find that they have one crown, or possibly in some cases two. And what you'll find is that dictates the direction of their hair growth, in which direction it grows. Afro-Caribbean hair does not have one crown, nor does it have two. I was told that every strand is its own crown.
Oh, wow.
So for you, that's why I think a lot of people, when they get taught how to cut Afro-Caribbean hair, they get taught to cut up, down, left, right, diagonal, because you have to get those strands that are, very, very clearly at a spiral. So a lot of people struggle with it because they don't know how to get to that finished product, that finished image, and other people's don't because they've mastered it. So I think when I was working in Buzzin, to learn how to cut Afro-Caribbean hair to the highest standard was what I was thrown in the deep end first, put it that way. So getting thrown into the deep end, it was awesome. I was learning all these fades, but then there was another element of barbering that I was lacking, and that was the scissoring, that was the shear work.
So where do you start if you're looking to get into barbering school, if that's what they call it, right? What do they teach you first? Is it about the different textures of hair, or like you said, the crowns? What's the first lesson?
Okay, if there were two individuals and one individual went to a shop to learn how to cut hair and the other one went to an actual school to learn how to cut hair, depending on that individual school, shop, whether it's an Afro-Caribbean or a traditional shop, they're going to learn that style of the haircut.
Right.
Okay. When you go to barbering school, they're going to teach you how to cut at an international level and international skill set level. So anywhere you get thrown on the planet, you're going to know how to cut hair because you've been taught that international standardized method of cutting hair. In a barbershop where it's predominantly either Caucasian or Afro-Caribbean, that's where you're going to excel at. You as an individual might go out your way and learn more skill sets off of YouTube. You might go to another barber who works in a Caucasian shop as opposed to an Afro-Caribbean shop and learn how to use scissors from him. It can grow on you. But if you go to a barber school, they teach you everything. I was fortunate enough to have gone to the London School of Barbering, and I had taken a crash course, which was 2 weeks. So the first week they taught you how to cut hair with the clippers, and then the second week they taught you how to cut hair with the shears. You are told to forget everything you know before going to that school, because when you get into that barbering school, they teach you the safest method of cutting hair, where you cannot make a mistake, where it's done internationally. If you went to France and someone asked for a 2 back and sides and you're originally from England, that 2 back and sides will still apply to them because you've been taught well. So the London School of Barbering gave me another level of confidence that I didn't know I had. I came out of there like, okay, who wants a haircut? Who wants a textured crop? Who wants the comb over? Because those are the haircuts that I struggled with in an Afro-Caribbean barbershop. Not because they didn't know how to cut hair, but because there wasn't enough
of those customers,
Caucasian customers coming in where they can ask for that haircut. Some of them knew how to hold, comb and scissors and cut, but technique and skills and learn how to texture and holding the shears in a certain way. That comes all from the barber school. So London School of Barbering was an awesome leap forward for me. And I just came out black guns blazing. I just came out with just confidence. And in there, they teach you the theory alongside the practical. They teach you the health and safety. They teach you the dangers of customers. So when I say dangers, a customer might come into the barbershop and they might have dandruff, they might have psoriasis, they might have alopecia, they might have skin conditions that might affect your tool work, that might affect the next customer. So they teach you everything. They cover everything. You cannot pass that 2-week course or the 9-week course that they have until you've sat a test.
Wow. And how, so I assume, of course, they test you practically.
Yes, yeah. So,
and there's probably is there a written assessment as well?
There is. So the practicality comes for where in the morning they'll teach you how to cut hair, and in the afternoon you will practice on a real client with these mentors walking behind you, watching you. The idea is to watch how they do it in the morning, and then you're at it in the deep end in the afternoon.
Because it's a practical vocation, you obviously use your hands. Do you feel like you learn that quicker than theory-based skill sets?
I work and learn better practically. Theory, I'm an intelligent enough man to understand the theory behind things, but I would prefer, give me it. Let me just break into it hands-on. And I think that's where it came from, the IT side of things, where we get given a router or a switch and we just get told, configure it, fix it, find out what the problem is. So I think I prefer to get in there. If I make a mistake, I see where I made a mistake. So the barbering, everybody makes mistakes. When you come into the industry and you're new.
So tell me about the early mistakes that you made. Whose head did you ruin?
Thankfully, I haven't been that much of a bad barber.
Because no one talks about the horror stories, right?
No one talks about the horror stories. But we've all gone through it. I remember one kid, I accidentally, I think I got away with it. I was working in a shop which I was working right against the glass window. And it wasn't a glass window per se. It was a very flimsy kind of glass. So if you leant against it, you can feel it bend back. Okay. Because I'm on the edge and I'm next to this window, this kid is in my chair and I'm cutting him up. And I get round to the back and I'm fading and, doing a good job. And I leant back and didn't anticipate the bounce back. Because I'm in the middle of the haircut, right? So I leant back and as I bounced back off, the clipper came into his head.
Oh, no
And
way.
because of the motion I had going on, as I was coming back up, I lifted the hair. So I basically created a bald patch in the back of his head. And the way it was so smooth, and I think it comes back to the drama that I had studied in school. It was so smooth when it happened that I pretended nothing had happened and had to spin him so no one could see the back of his head. The whole haircut was finished with everyone facing the front. But when he got up, he went and sat at the back of the chairs, the waiting chairs, because his brother was getting a haircut.
Yeah.
And thankfully, no one could see the back of his head. But I had to raise the haircut, the fade higher. And I was there for another 3 days, but no parent ever came back complaining or screwing. So I think I got away with it.
That's good.
But other than that...
have you seen any other barbers deliver some horrible haircuts?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't want to lean to the fact that it's because I don't think they have proper education and knowledge, but I think I have to lean to it. So I've seen a few barbers that have taken haircuts to a different dimension when the customer's never asked for it. It could be... The problem is when an individual has a regular haircut for a regular period of time, over a year or two, if it's a 2 back and sides, and then suddenly that barber puts a 1 instead of a 2, or he puts the half guard instead of the 2, it changes the whole dynamic for this customer's haircut. This customer has to look in the mirror now for another 2 weeks, a haircut that he's not used to. It takes away that confidence level that he's always had. It takes away that for him to be able to feel that, I feel good today. I feel that it takes it all away. So I've seen barbers not listen to their customers and taking haircuts shorter than they should have.
Is it down to negligence? Like, they genuinely forgot to do something or put the wrong clipper on by accident? Or is it just a case of them making their own recommendation? I know this will suit you better.
Yes. Some barbershops I've worked at, a customer sat in the chair and asked for a haircut, and the barber's giving them completely different because they think this looks better. And so you've seen customers blow up and complain and scream, why am I getting this? I didn't ask for this. Others, it's just because they don't know. It's just because they still have a learning curve to get past.
And is that more so for the younger barbers that are just getting in, or have you seen some older?
I've seen some experienced barbers that it's hard for me to understand how they're still barbering because one, you're in a chair getting this haircut, this terrible haircut, and you're looking in the mirror and something is telling you to say, yeah, it's a nice haircut, thank you. And I'm the other barber looking at this haircut thinking, what is she doing? Or what is he doing? Like, they're chopping him and the customer's left happy. So we have to, it gets to the point where you have to try and, you have to accept the fact that there are some barbers out there that will give haircuts that they think is a good haircut, but it's really not. Or they'll give haircuts that they think is good for them, which it really isn't. And I have
Can you tell on a customer's face?
All the time.
Can you see the pain behind their eyes?
All the time. I've got a couple of stories with my own customers. I've gone to other barbers and
see, that's what happens when you cheat on your barber, right?
Yeah, never cheat. So I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen along the way. But the way I've seen it change is when I was never a barber and I was working in the corporate world, I saw people making more mistakes. The transition from the normal corporate world into the barbering industry has been a huge 15 to 20 year gap. What has changed in 15 to 20 years? Technology, social media, anything that's trending. You've got, when I was first kind of like creeping into the industry, Neymar was changing his haircut all the time. You had Ronaldo having and who was it that was going 100 miles an hour in a barbershop? The barbers. Why? Because these kids are coming in. I want the Neymar haircut. Yeah. I want this haircut. I want that. So you have to be trending. You have to get to that stage where there was a period where everyone was getting night ticks on the back of their head. There was a period,
remember that phase,
you know. So we've gone through trends and lifestyles of haircuts, but in the last 15 to 20 years, there's been an explosion because of social media.
What haircut have you cringed at being requested to do the most?
Egda. Jeez, I say that, and I think any other barbers hearing this would agree. It's a bowl haircut. It's picture a bowl. Someone putting a bowl.
The bowl cut.
A bowl. It's not as bad as how the old bowls used to be. This is more like a bowl haircut. A bowl haircut with like a bit of a blend on the corners and on the back. You know, it's sort of a cross between a taper fade and a bowl haircut. It's sort of like what's that film with Jim Carrey and Dumb and Dumber? Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah.
Pretty much that. So you got kids coming in asking for.
Is it sort of like a mullet where it's longer at the front, or is that?
No, actually, I prefer people coming in asking for mullets. If I'm honest with you, this Egda haircut is just an ugly, round shaped. There is nothing interesting about it. Even you're probably going to edit this, and when you do, I hope you throw in an image on their screen so they can see, because it's just a haircut.
I will add a picture on, yeah.
Yeah, it's just shocking. It's not something, when I hear it, I just.
It's called the Edgar.
Egda, EDGAR, Egda haircut.
Edgar.
I never really bothered to look into the origins or where it came from and how it birthed, because it's just such a boring, ugly haircut. There are some barbers that have mastered this haircut.
Really?
There are some barbers.
Who's requesting this? Is it
I've
teenagers?
Yeah. I've never seen an adult get in the chair and say, can I get an egg? It's always kids. Because again, it's the trending. It's the social medias. It's the TikTok. It's the Snapchats. It's the Instagrams. That kids will sit in their room and see this haircut. Their friends will have this haircut the next day at school, and they have to get it by the weekend. The mum has to get them to go into the shop to get this Egda. And when mum sees the Egda haircut, you get two reactions. You're not getting that haircut. No way. You're not having that to save your life. Or, yeah, just let him have what he wants. Yeah, it's the weekend or it's the summer holidays. That's how the.
I think we can establish immigrant parents aren't having
no
any
way,
Edgar haircut going in their household.
No way.
I remember when I was, I think I was 12. I wanted to get a David Beckham, like a V mohawk haircut, and I remember trembling in the barber seat when I was 12 years old because I didn't tell my mum I was going. And I felt so cool about myself when I was getting it done. I was looking at myself from the side and everything. I was like, oh, I'm the man. And then I remember going home and my mum screaming like she saw me being stabbed or something. And I remember her calling my dad. It's like a big crime was committed. And then what she ended up doing was telling me, no, you're not leaving the house looking like this. She shaved it off. She sat me in the bathtub. She said, you're not going to school looking like this. And she shaved. So I was bald the next day. And I remember everyone in school saying, who's this? Because they only saw the back of me. They're like, who's that guy there? And then I turned around and they're like, oh my God, what happened to your hair? You know, because I had quite a bit of long hair before I had my haircut, but it was, I remember that day. I've
had a very similar story to that. And I think everyone has. Everyone's gone to the barbershop, got a haircut that they shouldn't have, they know they shouldn't have, and it's either your mum or your dad going to kill you.
Yeah.
So I've seen that happen a lot, but I think I've seen, my mum was the one who made me go back to the barbershop and cut my hair. I had a crazy design in the back when I was like 9. So I got home and she's like, nope. Went back in.
What
The
did you
most
get,
embarrassing
the eye
part
slits?
was, no, I didn't get any eye slits then because I think it was, my parents would have been really against that.
Yeah.
It was the older I got the eye slits, but it was more of a case of there was a crazy pattern on my hair. When I say crazy, I'm talking it started here and it came all the way around to the back and came all the way. So it was a really like a graffiti kind of, the barber took hours on it. He really spent time on it. And I remember the most embarrassing part was having to be dragged back in.
Oh, you went back to the same barber?
Mum dragged me back to the same barber
And how
shop.
old were you here?
Like 9. Dragged me back and I got into the chair and Q jumped. No one, everyone who was waiting, they were like, nah, she's gone nuts. She came in kicking and screaming, was like, right, shave it off. And I just, what could I have done? What could I have said? So I learned from there. But yeah, as time grew on, I don't think I was ever a fan of that. Not because of it.
Yeah.
I just didn't really like the designs and stuff as much.
Yeah.
I do them for kids
Do you
now.
sympathise now if you get a mother coming in with her kid and he's got a funky hairstyle and you know, do you sympathise with the kid or do you sympathise with the mum now?
What if he wanted a funky haircut?
Yeah, if a kid comes back to your barbershop now with his mum and his mum's like, no, he's going to take that off. Do you feel like, oh, my work's gone down the drain here, or do you just feel like...
Okay, luckily, I've never been in that situation.
Okay.
I've never given a haircut to a kid and the mum's come in and asked for a completely change of dynamic. It's either always been, it's a bit too long on the top, or can we take it a bit shorter on the sides? It's never been like, change this whole haircut. I've sympathized with other barbers that have been in that situation. Because, sorry, not sympathize with other barbers, sympathize with like the kid, for example. I think when kids come in for their haircuts, term time, keep it smart. Term time, keep it smart. Because a lot of schools in today's world have rules and regulations that are constantly changing, and some of which are haircuts. Some schools really are against kids having skin fades, for instance. And this is all because kids nowadays are, oh, these kids are nuts. A kid will go Friday to the barbershop, get a skin fade, and then Monday, when he goes to school, all the kids play a game. And it's slapping the kid with the freshest skin fade, slapping the back of his head. Now, we all know why and what happens when you slap someone's head, especially after a fresh skin fade. It stings, it hurts. And as you're a kid, everything is funny. You're stupid. You're an idiot. You're an idiot. You and your mates are idiots. So this craze went nuts. What I seen is it went nuts in Milton Keynes. Schools were strictly prohibiting young kids to get skin fades because they're being slapped. Wow. So kids will come and say, I'm not allowed to skin fade. They can't go lower than a 0.5. It has to be anything. And so they'll come and get a 1 or a 2. So term time, keep it fresh, keep it simple, keep it clean. The summertime, I say to the mums and the dads, let them go nuts. If they want a crazy hair, if they want to dye their hair, let them go nuts. Because you only live once as a kid. And not only that, your summer holidays are the one that have the most memories. You remember those summer holidays when you come back, when you come into school in September and you're just like, oh man, I went here, I went there, I went Disneyland. I remember my summer holidays were amazing. And I think when these kids go into to have their haircuts now in the summer, parents, let them have fun. If they want to have those dynamic haircuts, if they want patterns, if they want a skin fade, let them have it. Last week of the summer holidays, we'll talk business, me and mum. We'll talk business, me and dad. We'll go back to, office clean cuts. But I think, in terms of sympathising, I have sympathised with a lot of kids. Yeah. But only at certain times of the year. Because it makes sense, in the summer, let them have fun. They're still young,
Exactly. When you're a kid and like you said, you're only a kid for a very short period of time. Yeah. And it's just hair at the end of the day, isn't it?
Back, yeah.
Exactly, and you grow as well because you realise after a while, I shouldn't have done that. It's a bit, a bit too extreme or whatever. But out of interest, what haircuts do you enjoy giving the most? What style? I know it probably depends on the person's sort of background and the hair type, but what haircut style do you enjoy the most? There
are several different types of hairstyles depending on of the ethnicity. So Afro-Caribbean can have a skin fade, he can have a taper fade, he can have just a number 1 all over, he can go completely bald. And the same applies to Caucasian haircuts. Someone who's white can have a skin fade. Someone who's white can have an all scissor cut. Now, because I was thrown into the deep end when I first started with fades, try and picture this. In this barbershop, there are 5 different barbers. And once I've shadowed one, I'm curious about the others. So of course I'm going to go and stand behind them and watch how they do what they do. After a while, you start to learn and figure out these guys' processes and their methods. This guy approaches it in this way. This guy approaches it that way. After a while, you get confused. You're like, what is the way that works? What is the method of fading? Do you go up? Do you go down? Do you start in the middle? Like, how? So after a while, I started to enjoy fading because I started to understand there are different approaches to fading because of the different haircuts. Mm-hmm. But my love came with the scissors, shear work. I love when I have an all-over scissor haircut. When someone comes in and says, can I get an inch off? No clippers, just scissors. Because for me, I feel as though before clippers were introduced into the barbering industry, we had nothing but scissors. We had nothing but scissors and a comb. Mm. So the true art, the true essence of art begun when an individual only had 2 tools. And then that birthed techniques.
Is that because you're so connected? Because you only have your hands and a pair of scissors to use as opposed to any technological assistance per se?
I'll probably say so. I think when I was taught how to use shears, when I say shears, I refer to shears as scissors. That's the terminology we use in barbering. So if I say scissors, I apologize to any barbers and hairdressers out there. So I'm going to stick with scissors just to keep it simple. When you get taught how to use scissors with hair, there are different types of sizes of scissors, and then there's also thinning scissors, which take off the weight of the hair. So for me, this didn't exist back in the day. Back in the day, it was just your normal scissors, and the barber had to figure out in terms of length and angles how he can make this haircut like a Pierce Brosnan kind of hairstyle, kind of like yourself as well. Mm-hmm. So I think for me, it was more of, it comes from the analytical side of things with the IT. I wanted to figure out how can I give this man a haircut using scissors and a comb. The curiosity was there, and I had to feed it. I needed to figure out how so YouTube was my best teacher. YouTube would show me videos of hairdressers, barbers with all these techniques, spinning them around the fingers and stuff. And I'm like, wow, that gave me more of a buzz. It gave me more of a kick than giving someone a fade did.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always cooler when they have scissors in their hands and, you know, they're coming at it from different angles. Yeah. And it's like, how does that work? Like, I've always wondered how thinning works. How can you, with a pair of scissors, because when they're thinning your hair, they're not cutting it.
No.
But it's almost like they're bending your hair a little bit. Like I could see it through the clips, and they're like wiggling it a little bit. Like, how does that work? I've always wondered.
It's how the blades are positioned. So on a normal pair of scissors, for shears, you would have one blade is the cutting blade, and the other blade is the stagnant, so it just stays still. So the idea is when you hold the scissors, your thumb only moves one blade. This helps with ergonomics, this helps with aesthetics, this helps with you holding that scissors for a long period of time. It's good for your posture if you hold it in the correct method. So don't expect all barbers to grab a pair of scissors and then just hold it normally how you would if you was in art school.
Yeah.
We don't hold the same. We have special shapes in our scissoring. The handles of the shears of the scissors are designed for us to hold it in a way where we are not damaged in the long run. So thinning shears have certain type of the blades themselves. When you actually look at the actual pair of scissors, you will see that on one of the legs, it's designed so when it snips into your hair, it doesn't snip 100%. It sort of snips half. So when someone was to sit in my chair, and if I never had any shears, thinning shears, if a customer sat in my chair and said, can you thin my hair out? But I never had any thinning shears. I only had normal scissors. We're taught how to thin someone's hair using normal scissors as opposed to thinning shears.
Right.
You understand? So there are techniques that you'd use with the normal shears, and then there's also the actual product itself, the actual thinning shears that are designed in a way that if you went snip, no length is off, the weight is off.
Right. And Jack, is it when I went through thinning a few times, and I don't do it every time I get a haircut, but especially when I had long hair, because my hair was long about a year ago. In fact, I cut it, I think this time last year, it was like up to here. I had the Tarzan look for a while. And I remember it was heavy because I have thick hair. And so if I didn't thin it, it would just be out here. So I remember when, after the thinning part was done, not the cutting part, I mean, there was like this much of the really light hair.
That's what it takes out.
Yeah, exactly. But it made a big difference.
Huge. There are some customers, for example, there are customers that would jump in the chair. The consultation of the haircut is the most important. The 5 minutes you spend with the customer before the entire trim even begins. If I've got a half an hour window to cut your hair, the first 5 minutes is the most. I soak in so much more information in that 5 minutes than I do cutting your entire hair, because it's that moment where you sit one-on-one with tell me, and you sit there and tell me, I want ABC. And as a barber, I've got to take those 5 minutes as the most important 5 minutes of the haircut, because I've got to listen to what you want. When I grew up, barbers didn't listen to what you wanted. Barbers gave you what they thought looked good on you. If I said I wanted a low fade, somehow I'm walking out that barbershop with a mid fade or a high fade. And it just never made sense. So the first 5 minutes, what we were taught at barber school, the London School of Barbering, was your first 5 minutes is your most important consultation. I've had gents sit in the seat, the hair seems easy length, like they don't need a haircut. Let's say, for example, this is a slick back, they comb their hair backwards.
Yeah.
They would sit in that chair and ask for the whole service to be thin. They don't want any length off, they want the weight off.
Right, okay.
When you thin them out and then you blow dry their hair through again, the moment that individual runs his fingers through his hair, you would see the reaction on his face. Because you know what I mean when I say your hair is thick and it's just heavy and it's hot, when the sun's beaming on, it's just too much.
Yeah.
Imagine running your fingers through and it's the same length that you love your hair, looking into that mirror every morning, but it feels exactly how you want it to. It doesn't give you that, my hair's thick.
Yeah.
So that's the beauty of being able to have thinning shears to make someone still feel good, even though they haven't had a haircut. They've had their hair thinned down.
Yeah.
The power of just the thinning shears itself is a dynamic tool in the barbering industry.
Yeah.
It changes everything, changes so much. So
that's amazing. And you mentioned about the 5 minutes before you begin. I think nowadays, because of technology, all people do now is just show you on their phone, hey, I want this.
Yeah.
And you've probably had it where you look at the picture and you're like, yeah, that's not going to work with you, because maybe that person is a Caucasian and you're from this background and your hair type isn't the same. Do you tell them straight up, or do you just attempt it?
No, I will never I'm as real as you can get when it comes to barbering. If you show me a picture of what you want and I look at it and I look at your head, I'm going to tell you there and then, even if I have to hurt you slightly, even if, not intentionally or maliciously, but I have to give you the honest truth. This haircut will not work with you. If you want this, we can try and go in this route, try this, blah, blah, blah. But I always give my utmost honest opinion when it comes to barbering. And what I have found amongst all my customers that I cut over the 6-year period that I've been doing this is they've built the trust to be able to ask me, do you think this haircut will look good? I want to try this haircut. And what I would do if I find that it doesn't work for them, I would spin them to an alternative style. If I provide them a different option and they go for it, I have found 9 times out of 10, that new hairstyle that I've recommended, this is their hairstyle now. Every person that I've given an advice to say, yo, you should try this. I think it'll work with you. A lot of my customers love this. I've seen this trending. This is good. It works, blah, 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 blah. Every single time I do that, as soon as the customer tries that haircut at the end, they're happier than what their old haircut was. And for them, they were like, I didn't even know I could achieve this. I didn't know I could look this good again or better. So for me, I think when they come with me with audacious hairstyles and ideas and I shoot it down, I'll give you an alternative. And that alternative always seems to work out for the best of them. But yeah, I'll never give a customer a haircut which I think would suit them without them being 100% on board.
This podcast is very kindly sponsored by the gentleman at Glownode. If you are an aspiring trader who would like to gain access to capital to further progress your trading career, take a look at Glownode. They provide you with several options when it comes to funding. Once you pass your assessment, your evaluation phase with them, you have access to capital ranging from $10,000 all the way up to $200,000 in funding. I've dropped the details down in the link below. Yeah, that's great to hear, because I can imagine there's probably a lot of barbers who would just be like, all right, fair enough. And then they begin cutting the hair, and it ends up being a disappointment, obviously, because it just doesn't work with their hair type. Or maybe just their facial structure or the size of their head. I mean, I'd love to know. I mean, what do you bear in mind when you're cutting someone's hair? Like, if they show you a haircut, do you bear in mind the face shape, because it's not just the hair type, I imagine. It's obviously, you know, their facial structure and, you know, the size of their head as well. So for some people, maybe their hairline starts further back.
Yeah. You know? During barber school, we are taught science and maths behind barbering, which is so random to hear, because you wouldn't expect barbers to have an understanding of any type of like angles or maths involved into barbering, but there is. We are one of the most fundamental, probably the biggest foundation of understanding how to approach a haircut is to understand the skull, the human skull. So there are bones on your skull that dictate, when your hair grows, how you look. So for instance, you have a bone on the back of your head where you can feel if you run your fingers in the back. That is called your occipital bone. Your occipital bone, which most barbers would call your O bone, it has this bump. You can feel it as you rub around it. Now, when a customer comes in, it's in the middle of the back of your head. So typically when a customer comes in and says, "Can I get a mid fade?" A skin fade middle of the head. You have to bear in mind that when you're giving this haircut, you're trying to create a design, trying to fade someone out off of the bone, the back of their skull. Now, what does this do? This creates shadows. This creates areas that might seem isn't really blended, but you as a barber, you know you've been following the process and following the steps, and you know it's blended. But once they sit upright normally, because that bone kind of arches, it kind of curves round, we create shadows from light. So it could ruin your haircut and all your hard work because of this individual's head shape. Very good barbers will know when they're combing your hair before your haircut, they're feeling where your bones are in your head. They're feeling if there are any indiscrepancies. They're feeling any moles in there. They're feeling anything that your comb might clip and feel. That's our own analysis in our head. When we come to give you a haircut and we know you want a haircut that's boxed up, but your hairline is receding, we actually understand that we can't box you up, pushing you back. We're going to ruin you. You're the only individual that looks in the mirror that knows where your truest hairline is. And if a barber pushes it back, you then have to face the world with this, this haircut that is nothing to do with you. So good barbers have to approach a haircut with that consultation in mind to say, okay, you want this haircut? Cool. In your head, you're like, can this haircut work with the occipital bone? Is it too low? Is it perfect? Is it on right? Okay, cool. Let's move on to the next area. Your temple right here. A lot of barbers don't understand the importance of why haircuts should either begin or end here. So there are times where if a barber doesn't understand the structures of the human head, the skull, the bones, where they start, it makes their job a little bit more difficult if they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
If they don't know what they're doing. So we go in there with the understanding that there's science behind this. We go in there understanding that there is maths behind this. Even the guards that we use, the clips that we put onto the machines, they're all of different sizes. So to us, we have a whole different, world of analysis when we come to your haircut, because it's true. We went through lockdown. How many people tried cutting their own hair? How many girlfriends suddenly became barbers and hairdressers in the span of those? But then how many are there still barbers and hairdressers? None, because they know that is no tough shit. That is no easy stuff. That is some tough.
Because the slightest error just changes you completely.
Completely. And okay, a girlfriend might be doing that to the boyfriend in lockdown. Who's going to see? No one. You can get away with that. Do that today, in today's time, where people are going to judge you, and everybody. It's not an easy industry to go into, and especially picking up the clippers, it's not easy to run the clippers up someone's head. There's not only is there understanding of the theory behind it, the health and safety behind it. I grew up in environments where barbers never cleaned their machines, never sprayed their machines. I went to barber school and we got told the health and safety is behind that, the dangers of it, why it's important to clean your machines.
What are some of the dangers?
just carrying bits and bobs from other haircuts to newer haircuts. So you could be combing through
Like
someone's
blood
haircut.
and, you know, you caught someone's
It could be
pimple or
blood, it
something.
could be infections, it
Yeah.
could be bacteria. 80%, 85% of customers that come to the barbershop don't wash their hair beforehand. They don't. So obviously you're bringing dirt, you're bringing crap. That gets clogged up into our machines. So then we have to spend time with the maintenance behind that. So a lot of times, yes, I've seen barbers that don't clean after themselves, after haircuts, and in turn, you pass on those infections.
Yeah.
People get ringworms. Ringworm is probably one of the biggest, scariest things to experience.
Sounds scary.
It is. So as a good barber, you will find someone who keeps their station clean, who keeps their machine clean. I don't have to preach about myself and my cleanliness because it's evident when you sit in my chair, everything's in order, everything's in
I can
reach.
approve of that. Yeah.
everything is clean to a very good standard for you to feel. You know, I've sat in chairs before where it's messy and it's like that clutter is giving me clutter in here.
Yeah.
I just hope the clutter's not in his head and I don't walk out of here with a cluttered haircut. So everything plays a role.
It's the experience, because
It
that's the
is.
thing. When you're going to a barber shop, you're not just looking to get your hair cut. You don't want to dread walking in there because it's dirty and, you know, it's too loud. Like, you want the ambience to be just right. You want it to smell nice. You want there to be enough space for you to sit down where you're not
100%.
stuffed in between two other guys. So I think it's the whole experience of cutting your hair. And this is why many guys out there are happy to pay a premium to get their haircut if the experience is nice.
Yes.
You know, if the experience is unpleasant, then you almost feel like you're being robbed of the money.
100%.
You know, because one of my pet peeves over the years is going to barbers that were just on lunch and they had some Monster Munch or some crisps or whatever, and they didn't wash their hands.
Yeah.
And now they're just, you know, cutting my hair and then they're grabbing my face, and I could smell the food,
Yep.
you know, on their fingers, and it just made me want to throw up, you know, but you have to pretend like, yeah, cool, yep, nice, yep.
Yeah.
Or, you know, people that smoke and then for some reason they walk in and they're just blowing it in your face, and it's, you know.
It's so true.
Yeah, so it's the whole experience of going there and sitting down, and I'm curious to know the range of prices. So, you know, most stores, I mean, I'd love to get your perspective on the dynamic of the pricing in
Okay.
today's age. You know, where does it start?
Demographically, it plays a huge part.
Okay.
Wherever you're based plays a part on your price. If you're going to be in the heart of London, your price is going to be 3 times higher than they are in Milton Keynes, for instance. If you're going to be somewhere where there is a lot of traffic, it's up to you as an owner of that shop, or you as a barber working independently, to put your prices accordingly. Now, each time as each day comes into motion, we're introduced to this new and crazy ideas of how prices are being raised, and, you know, inflation here, inflation there, and everything seems to be more and more expensive. So it has to be reflected into everything we do, whether it's the milk that you buy in the shop, whether it's the petrol you fill in your car, whether it's the pack of fags. Everything has gone up. So it's only right for barbering to be reflected in those prices. But this contradicts everything we spoke of. Because if you've got someone who hasn't got heart into what they do, why should you be paying a premium? If you go to a barbershop that's on the high street and they have all these crazy services and all these crazy, you know, tools in there, and it's looking jazzy, and they've got this app and you can book and you don't have to waste time, why are you walking out of that barbershop with a haircut that doesn't make you feel like $1 million? But if you go over to Tony's barbershop, who's been there for 52 years and hasn't got all of this crazy stuff, he can make you feel great with the haircut being half price. So the truth behind the price varies on, I can honestly say from what I've experienced, and probably barbers that probably want to add to this, the prices are reflected demographically where you are. The prices are reflected on experience. It makes sense to pay someone decent money for someone who's been doing it for 30 odd years and they know what they're doing, as opposed to you paying someone £30 who's just come out of barber school 6 months ago. He's doing it for the likes. He's doing it for the social media aspects. But this guy's doing it for 25 years. He's doing it for the passion. Someone who's done it for 25 years loves their job. I've worked in places where I worked in retail stores, and I've asked people, how long have you been out? I've been here 45 years. How do you... They must love what they do, you know?
Surely, yeah.
They must love what they do. So you've got people who have been dedicated to something for so long, but there's something, but there's a drive, there's a force. And I don't think when you meet people who've been doing jobs for like so many years that they're doing it just to pay bills, you know, they must have some sort of passion behind something that they've been doing so long. You'll have the odd people here who just pay bills and just get by.
Yeah.
Also, social media. Demographically experienced social media. If I'm going to see someone who's constantly on social media, uploading all their haircuts, all these videos, they are trending, they've got loads of followers, they've got loads of likes, there's probably a good reason why they've got that. And there's probably a good reason if I go and see him, I might feel what other customers are feeling. So it's all about how self-employed barbers are promoting themselves. And also I'm not gonna hover too much on this, but I think it's also the environment, the setting. And when I say environment, I'm not relating it to demographically. Environment being, if someone was cutting hair out of a shed and they were charging £40 for a haircut out of a shed, how much credibility does this barber have for me to be able to say, yeah, cool, take my 40? Is it because we've been friends for so long? Is it because I trust in what you do? You're cutting out of a shed. Most barbers are cutting out of a barber shop. They've got an beautiful shop with 4 or 5 other chairs around them. But this guy's out of a shed and I'm still going to go back to him. So the environment plays a big part, because in an environment, you could also dictate how someone feels.
Yes.
A barbershop it could look 10-10. It could look $1 million, like $1 million bucks. But that service that barber's giving you could be 3 out of 10. It could be, you could say to yourself that you get more respect from people who do the lowest jobs than he does, giving you in your check. Because at the end of the day, you're paying him for a service. You know, how are you going to give such a bad service when this is your bread and butter? This is your bread and butter. So for me, when I see that, I think prices are affected by so many different things.
Of course, yeah.
And it all boils down to your barber. I think it all boils down to your barber. You can have an amazing barber for 30 odd years. He could charge you a premium price, but he's doing things to you that no other barber's made you feel. I have one of my day one customers. I moved out to China for 9 months, and I was cutting his hair before when I moved, and I still cut his hair now. And again, this is my boy Manny, my day one guy, the one I cut the first time in the toilet. He didn't get a haircut during the time I was absent from this country.
Loyal, man.
He flew out to China to get his
flew
hair.
out.
Not specifically for that hair, but he missed me, you know, holiday, you know, there's great, so many reasons. But one of the things that he held back on was cutting his hair during England. So I asked him, you know, why didn't you just get your hair cut, you know, go to another barber? And you're my barber. You are my barber, bro. Like, no one's going to touch my hair. You do it how I like. And it's everything else behind it. It's the years of experience I've known him. It's the knowledge I've gained from barbering. It's the tools and the toys I bring to the barbering game that he appreciates. It's the not ripping you off out of your pocket, you know, charging you for so many years, and I'm not ripping you off, but I'm giving you an egg. It's the any time of the night you can call me. You got a flight at 5 a.m. Give me a call at 2 a.m. if you want that extra 10-10, you know, look at the airport. Yeah. That's the kind of flex I've gone into. So for me, when I got customers that do that to me, it makes me feel some sort of type of way. It makes me realize that, okay, I love what I do, and these guys are willing just to stick to him. So I've got more customers that can count that will not go to another barber. That will only come.
It's that loyalty, man. It's an incredible feeling, I can imagine. I mean, in any line of work, if someone says, man, you do it differently to anybody else, it makes you feel like you're the real deal. It does.
But then at the same time, sometimes when I hear that, I don't feel as though I live up to my, I don't know, name, if that's... I feel as though there are barbers that are better than me. There are barbers that have been in this game who have got more knowledge than me. And I feel as though those are the ones that you should be saying, you know, they're the best barbers. But then I have customers who have gone to social media trending barbers that have crazy followers on Instagram. And then they come back to me. Not come back to me because a bad experience, but they've then come to me for a haircut. And I said, yo, what's the difference? What's the difference between my man and me? Him on social media, 100,000 followers, and me in this little barbershop in Milton Keynes. What's the difference? He goes, nothing. Like, if it was a case of, if you weren't here, I'll go back to him. But you're here, you do it exactly how I like it. You use exactly the same things he does. There is no difference to what you do apart from your social media. influence or impact. That's it. So I was like, really? He was like, yeah. Another customer, he went to a famous barber in Derby. This barber cuts all these football players around the area, but he's well known on TikTok, blowing up on TikTok. His haircuts are £40 minimum. Before you get in his chair, whatever it is, £40. A lot of people argue that's a premium. Other places might charge you 50, 60, 70 pound for that haircut. But why he's charging you 40 is because of the traction and the traffic he gets from TikTok.
Well, it is. I mean, it's that supply and demand concept, isn't it? I mean, if there's a lot of demand for you and there's only one of you, well, you have to raise your prices.
You have to. But then at the same time, it goes back, is that barber worth that price he's gone up to?
Exactly.
You know?
And that's a question I wanted to touch on as well, is what separates a good barber from a great barber? We're talking ability-wise, because you mentioned that some of these customers that have been to some of these other great barbers have said really there's not much of a difference. What takes someone to that elite level, in your opinion? If we move social media to the side for a second, in terms of technical ability, what is the separator?
Hand on heart, from the experiences I've had working with people who've had over 30 years in the game, people who have had really big names on social media. I've gone to barbering conventions where I've been models being cut by really big barber names, and I've had my hair cut on stage, and I've watched all of them. The way I separate great and good, social media aside, is what do you give beyond the haircut? To me, that's the difference between a good and a great barber. What do you give beyond the haircut? So for me, the answer is, it's the small things and it's the big things. Nyam, the one, my barber who worked at Buzzin, Nyam gave me a different perspective of service and a haircut. When I worked alongside him, what I learned was he's doing the smallest things that separate him from the competition. Even though we are not interested in competition, we don't care who the top 5 barbers is around us. The way he was trying to train me, the mindset was not about that. The mindset was about, what can you give at this given moment, at this given time with this customer? What can I give in the now? And it was small stuff like a hot towel, free of charge. It was the last minute phone calls to squeeze me in. It was the ability to say yes when there was no in customers' ears. There was the ability to say yes. So for instance, a hot towel. We were on the high street and customers would flow in. And some would come in as new customers, some would be existing customers. And what they would find is, across the other barbershops around the area, no one was giving out hot towels, free hot towels as a service. We would have like 30, 40, 50 mini towels, hand towels, washed daily, dried daily, ready for the rush of customers that come in. Because at the end of that haircut, one, it's a great haircut. You're coming in to your barber that you've been cutting for years, you love it. What I built with Nyam was understanding energies. We had a barbershop that would play loud music. You walk in there and you feel good. Because when there's loud music and there's that positive vibe in the air, it's contagious. You walk into that shop, you can't help but to catch that vibe. So we had this crazy influence of not social media, of positivity. And then when you had these customers coming in, it was love. It was doing your job, but applying nothing but love behind it. We had not the cheapest haircuts. We had £15 a haircut. £15 a haircut, okay? And then 20 for anything extra or crazy. 15 and 20 pound are two very basic prices in barbering. A lot of barbershops are hitting above that 24, 25, 28 range, 35 pound range, because they feel as though, pay for your services. I've been doing this for long. I'm qualified. I've got certificates, blah, 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 blah. But why can you not feel that vibe when you go to that premium paying barbershop and you get it when you come to our barbershop? What is it that was in that barbershop? It's everything you do after the haircut. It's everything we did afterwards. It was being able to sit down with people who went in there for a haircut and talking about life. It wasn't thinking about the money. The money flows in abundance if you don't focus on that and focus with love. The money flows in abundance. We will flip. If I told you the figures, I cannot believe the figures that we saw coming in, because it was just energy and love. The frequency was so high. So that is the difference in terms of a good and a great, because you're then, what we did was also focused on the community, giving back. So we had, the shop was called Do It For The Art. This brand, Do It For The Art, is Nyams. That's his brand. And Do It For The Art was simply exactly what it says, do it for the art. It was centered around giving back to the community. He was also a DJ, or he is also a DJ. So there are times where he would decide to throw, you know, like a party, or we'll hire out a hall, get some speakers in there, get good food, just people. It was a way of saying thank you to our customers. And because it was community based, it was nice to be able to reflect this in a town where you didn't see this often happening. Mm-hmm. Especially reflecting on the Afro-Caribbean side of things. So we had a really good output and a really good outcome into this, because we found that there was ways of touching the community. When we then created these opportunities for people to gather outside of the barbershop, it gave foundation behind what we were doing and the direction we were going into. So that stood out as, you know, these guys are really great barbers, man. Mm-hmm. I love going to that shop. You know, we didn't also just focus on Afro-Caribbean. We had, oh my God, Italian veterans. We had Europeans. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to list everyone who was non-black, basically. Mm-hmm. Because when you work in a black barbershop and have the majority of the clientele black, for some reason it might put off anyone who's not black. But we had the opposite reaction. Mm-hmm. We had people like walking by like, this looks nice. I'm quite busy in here. How much for a haircut, mate? Could you do a bit? That's how it worked. Yeah. That curiosity, boom, brought them in, and I built so many relationships with that. That's so amazing. Many relationships, just being able to give something other than, you know, £20 for a haircut. I've got half an hour. Just
not focusing on the financials, but just focusing on the craft itself, on delivering as much value as possible.
We were doing it for the art. We were doing it for the art. The art was haircutting. The art was creating. The purpose of what we did was to be, we're alchemists. We're changing matter from one to the other. Mm-hmm. And I think it was such a good way of understanding this industry and for what it means, for what it stands for. Because go back 50 years ago, barbershops did the same thing that we were trying to do. We had customers coming in there playing checkers, playing chess, having a cup of coffee, talking about this and that. It was a community place. This is what barbering was about 50 years ago, you know, and now it's all about, it's changed slightly.
Do you feel like it's so focused on the commercials now?
Big time. Just
franchises and...
Look, you can go to a barbershop in the heart of London and you're going to see every station with 3 ring lights, cameras prodded up. Everything is social media influence. Everything is all about how technical, how good you can look. Everything is about that. And that's where the blindness is. That's where the disguise is. Because how do you then filter out who's good and who's great? You understand? So I think the difference, the biggest difference now is just how people are portraying themselves. Before, we never had that. So it was a case of just an apron. You had an apron, you had a little comb sticking out your pocket, you're sweeping the floors. You know, now barbershops are coming in unity. People are wearing uniforms. People have got a certain trend and a certain theme that they follow.
It almost makes it feel clinical.
Very much so, because you also have to understand, as the time goes in, as time unfolds, we have to look at business operating in different ways. Barbering used to be a time where you walked in, sat down and waited an hour to 3 hours for your haircut, if it was a Saturday or what have you not. People waited, got the haircut, paid the tip, and they left. That was your traditional barbershop. Now, it's changed a lot because of technology. Now you don't have to commit 3 hours in the shop. As long as your barber's loyal and he's trustworthy, and you know he's working on that Monday that you have a booking at 9 a.m. because you have a meeting at 10:30. As long as you know your barber is going to be on point, your service, your experience becomes smooth, different. It's easier. Times have changed, so that's how business is going to change when it operates in the barbering world. it used to, yeah. So once you introduce that whole concept of having a booking system, you then change how your business works. You'll have 3 barbers doing bookings, 3 barbers doing walk-ins. That's how then it runs. Because before it was just everyone was doing walk-ins. Who's next? Who's next? Who's next? That's how it was, you know, old traditional styles. If you go to Turkey and you go to a barbershop, you're going to be able to sit outside in the front and then see someone walk by with selling tea. You can have, you know, a nice small...
The Turks, to be fair, they know how to do hospitality.
you understand? So
Right.
I've had the opportunity to work in different countries and see how barbershops...
So China, you mentioned China.
Yeah.
You were doing barbering there as well.
I was.
What was that like?
The
People don't normally think of China as being maybe like a leader in barbering, perhaps.
No.
But they always think of, obviously, Afro-Caribbean influences. Turkey is a country where not only barbering, but now even hair transplants.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. China was an experience. I think for me, China
Culturally,
was...
it must have been a major
everything,
shock to the system, perhaps.
Everything. So I went to China thinking, I'm the dog's bollocks. I've just come out of barber school, I'm qualified, I've done 8 months in a barbershop. I know how to finesse haircuts with scissors, I know how to finesse fades. Bring on the world, I'm not scared. Little was I wrong. Because once I got into China, the West disappears. The Western ideologies disappears. Everything Western disappears. So what you're then having to do is to adapt. You then have to go into this industry where people are asking for haircuts, but they're receiving a completely different service. Not to say they're ruining haircuts. You go to a barbershop in China, you're going to get a haircut. It's going to be about an hour and a half of a service because you're going to get your hair washed. You're going to get your hair cut. You're going to get it styled. You're going to get a massage. You're going to get rubbed down by one of the workers in the shop, not your barber. Once your barber's finished cutting your hair,
Oh, okay.
and
They
he's
pass
walked
you
off,
on down the
someone's going to
factory
be
line.
Their system is very, very intelligent. You've got a barber who'll cut your hair. You've got someone who's going to wash your hair. You've got someone who's going to rub your shoulders. If you want, someone's going to clip your toenails. Someone different. There's always someone different. So it's a very, very beautiful structure in how they've done it because the experience of getting your hair cut, it's more of it's an in-depth grooming service. Okay, men don't just walk out with the same confidence that they had in London or in England. No. The whole Chinese are very philosophical. They understand it's about aligning the mind, body, and soul. So when you give these haircuts and these services out in China, and don't get me wrong, it's not every single shop you're going to find this. You might find a shop that gives you traditional services, but the majority of these barbershops will highlight these services. I worked in a great barbershop called Asia, ASIA shop, Asia Barbershop. And it was one of the best experiences because I thought I was the dog's bollocks and I was shut down. In a world that we live in, what was the biggest shutdown was the barber that shut me down. When I say shut down, it wasn't negatively or in a way that broke my spirit. It was a slap in the face to say, reality check, bro. She was a female barber. And I've never worked with any female barbers. The only female barber that had any influence on me was my mentor back at London School of Barbering. So because she was teaching me, it was different to see how someone works in a shop.
Yeah.
First female. So when I was doing my thing and they were impressed by the tools I had. They were impressed by the difference you bring. The westernized world that you bring into their world is going to be like, whoa, who's this guy? My skin fades were not the same as I thought they were from England. They weren't as finessed as they were.
Wow.
And I understood the reason why very, very quickly, which saved me. So Chinese, the Asian population, whether it's Indian or Chinese, they have dark hair, like jet black hair. On top of it, if you're going to go towards China, Thailand, not so much Thailand, but China, they're very pale. Their skin complexion is a lot lighter than your average European. So what you'll find is a lot of the haircuts that they ask for, whether it's going to be like a skin fade, if you don't do it correctly, you're going to leave shadows. You're going to leave certain areas which are darker than... because the contrast is so different. White skin and jet black hair, you're going to see any mistakes you make. So for me, it was a huge wake-up call. I was like, whoa, okay, I can't bring what I've learned in the UK here, because now I have to approach it and I have to attack it differently. So I done a few haircuts, and then I look at her haircuts and I'm like, how on earth is she? They're so nice. These fades are so amazing. Her shape-ups are on point. They're better than mine. Her haircuts were smashing mine apart. And it shouldn't have been like that, because I was supposed to be this black, I had cornrows then, this black kid from London, qualified, you know, he's a cool swag. I love his style. He should be teaching us. And it was the opposite. So what I learned was you're not as big as you think you are. The world is such a huge playground. It's never ending in terms of knowledge and learning. She taught me a technique indirectly. She didn't, this is how you do it. No. It was more or less you approach your haircut, and I just watched. And I was like, oh, so that's what you're doing different to me. And then I just practiced that, and then I finessed it. And then that's when I gelled into the whole culture of how they work. One thing you will know, and you might not know, or you might have learned today, that a lot of the Asian communities, I don't know why, and I think it's more or less our generation, they want to incorporate, they want to break into the hip-hop culture. So you're going to have a lot of young kids who have dead straight hair will come into the shop and go to the females in the back and get their hair permed. Once their hair's permed, once it comes back out and it's all dried up, it's actually turned their hair into afro.
Wow.
So then they shift from there into my chair, and then when they ask for a skin fade, it seems as though I'm cutting an Afro-Caribbean client.
And this was in China?
And this was in China. It seems as though I'm cutting an Afro-Caribbean client, but this guy is Chinese.
Wow.
For 9 months, this is all they did. This was their trend. So whether it was a Chinese guy with straight hair coming in to get an Afro haircut, it was either that, or someone coming in and then suddenly they're walking out with locks.
Oh, wow.
Or and I'm like, huh? It was the hugest, because no one warned me about this. No one told me this is what you're gonna. All I knew was the haircutting at the beginning, but it was only up until I managed to finesse how to skin fade their haircuts. It was only until a kid came in, and then he asked for the perms, and I was like, why the hell is he getting a perm? And luckily, at the shop that I was working in, I had a good friend who was a barber who could translate to me, and he was telling me.
Yeah. So when you were working there, were they speaking Mandarin, Cantonese, or English?
Oh, it's a crazy story how I ended up working there. So I was looking for a job. Okay, I originally went out there because of my ex-girlfriend. She was a teacher, so she convinced me to go out there. And we found a beautiful place called Xiamen, which is an island off of the mainland. Very, very beautiful. I think it's southeast of China. So when we was originally going there, I generally didn't think I would find a shop that I could work in, that I could do what I'm doing, like I was doing in England. She did a lot of research and found a couple of shops, but unfortunately a lot of these shops wanted you to have either China want you to have a degree first before you find employment in there, and it doesn't matter what degree you have. So if you want to work in culinary but you've got a degree in engineering, they don't care. As long as you have a degree, they'll give you a visa. I didn't have a degree in barbering, so they don't accept that as a form of qualifications. I have the highest that I could have got in technical school. So when I had gone over there, I was looking for a barbershop to cut my hair, not for a job, because I gave up on the hope. I was there for holiday now. So I went around and I'm looking for these shops, and I find this one barbershop. And when I called up, the guy who answered the phone was Chinese, speaking Mandarin. And I said, do you speak English? Do you speak English? And he said, oh. I think he was trying to tell me 1 second, because he passed the phone over to a guy. And this is where I introduced LC. LC is my boy, my brother. He is a guy that took me under his arms when I got to China and I didn't have no one. He was the guy translating everything to me. He was the middleman. So I asked him if, I can come down for a haircut. He said, yeah. He didn't know I was black. He didn't know I was a barber. He didn't know I was there on holiday. He just knew I spoke English. So when I pulled up, it was a shop I didn't expect to find. It was a crew that I didn't expect to find, but it was the energy that changed everything. Going back to how it was working with Nyam in these shops where there's love in that, going into this barbershop, I felt that. So for me, I felt as though every single time I was looking for other barbershops for jobs and they were saying no, this one seems to say yes without saying yes. So I was able to strike a deal with the owner of the shop, and he was able to let me work there, and he was going to pay me under the table because I didn't have a visa. I was just as a tourist. I went there as a tourist visa. So he was kind enough to do that for me, and I've never found heaven on earth like I did there in Sharman.
Really?
Beautiful. Because there wasn't racism.
I was going to ask you, how did you feel as a black man going to China? There's a lot of obviously stereotypes. Some people say when you go there, you're subjected to, racism and, strange looks and things like that. Did you feel any hostility when you were there, or did you feel that everybody was just curious maybe?
That's it. So China have the majority of the population. The rest of the world doesn't exist to China. How they've been conditioned to think it's them. They pretty much have everything they want. So why would they want to venture into the rest of the world? We need China. China don't need us. Think about what I said there. Import everything, right? We need them. They don't need us. So when you originally get into China, it's a case of racism exists. Anywhere you go, racism exists. China wasn't racist per se. They were more curious. Oh, wow. He's a black guy with locks. Oh, wow. Look at his skin color. Oh, wow. So you go to places like Italy where racism is displayed beautifully and you can feel the racism. You can go different places like Turkey, for example. I don't want to use this as a bad example, but there is racism there and you can feel it. China wasn't racist in the way where you felt it. China was more or less, if you're waiting to cross the road and the lights are red, you're going to feel a flash in the corner of your eye. You're going to see a flash in the corner of your eye. You're going to feel someone holding your hand. Because what's happening is people don't see you often in their area. Yeah. So they're going to take a picture of you when you're standing at the lights. My ex, when we were crossing the road, I remember when we were crossing, she was holding my hand with one hand, and she had her other hand free. I remember she was just like squeezing my hand, and she was like looking at me like, oh my God. I thought she was scared. And I was like, what's wrong? He's like, he's holding my hand. So when I looked over, there was this gent waiting to cross the road, a Chinese, like local, and he was holding her hand whilst recording off of his phone.
Oh, like this sort of thing?
Holding her hand like this, and his other hand was
he was...
Yeah, so the three of us are standing all holding each other's hands. And he's recording this whole experience. And usually, if you're any other different place, I would have gone nuts. I would have been like, yo, what's going on? Yeah, I would have snapped. But exactly. I've got to understand what's going on before jumping. And what it is he's white, and my ex-girlfriend was white, but the complexions are different. So him holding her hand and recording it was a way of saying, maybe going back to his friends or his family, like, you'll never guess whose hand I was holding at the roads. Yeah. Look at this. Like, the lighter you are in China, mentality, I don't know why they think this, the more you're accepted. In China, if the sun comes out, the females will walk around with umbrellas to stop any sunburn or anything. Right. So I think her complexion was different to his. And this is the only reason I could put this into an explanation. He grabbed her hand to take pictures because he felt as though I've never come across this skin complexion before. Because it wasn't like he was saying, can I have your number? It wasn't like he was being sexually harassing her. He was curious and wanted to take a video. So I couldn't be mad at him. Yeah. You know, there were other days where I found where I'll be standing there minding my business and people would take pictures.
Because you're a tall guy.
Yeah, that's it. Well. Yeah. Tall, 6'2". I had blue tips added in my hair at the time. I just had this I was westernized, you know, I came from a westernized place. So everybody was like, wow, look at that guy. He's just so different. And it sort of felt like you're a celebrity because when people constantly take pictures of you and they're staring at you in the street.
Did they speak to you? Did anyone come up to you and try and speak to you? Or
I would probably say there was the new gen, this gen, saying hello. Hey, how you doing? You all right? Yeah. And then the old generation would be staring, like they would stare away and they'd just mind their own business, but they would stare. You would still get the odd stare. However, if you went to areas where the regions were there's a lot more of an older culture, there's a lot more older traditions there, where it's maybe not been as modernized as much, you may feel that you're more subjected to the feel of racism. because they are so old school in their ways, they're not ready to accept any changes. So if they see someone black walking in their rural area of China, they might not give you the welcoming, hello, how are you, than they would in the city. The city's a lot more conservative. So there's a lot more, do you know what I mean? So I never found racism in that sense, but I understood racism exists because the older generation weren't ready to transition. It's kind of like England in like the 70s and 80s. They were coming out of a transition where the racism was crazy. And then the more ethnic people started to settle within England towards the 80s, towards the 90s, towards now, you start to see there's a difference in how people have been treated, and you know there is a lot more acceptance. Yes, there's still racism, as there is anywhere,
of course,
but China has a very different approach. Chinese people are not racist. They're just more curious, and the more authentic you are, the better that you're accepted. I think that's what I found, because I was just myself, and I was making a lot of Chinese friends. Maybe it's because I was barber. Maybe it's because I was a barber and I was able to teach as well. But I never felt... I've heard stories of Japan, which are worse than China.
Yeah, I've heard stories of Japan as well, yeah.
So I think I was a lot more like, that it was China and it wasn't Japan. But at the same time, you know, as a black man who's been given the opportunity to travel the world, I've been to a lot more a lot worse countries than China. So China's, when I say heaven on earth, it's because of where I was at the time of where I was, the journey of my path that I was taking, and the doors I was opening. I was able to it was just so new to me that I gelled. I loved every minute of it. And the only reason why I returned was because of COVID. Every national was ordered back to their country during the peak of COVID.
So you left right at the beginning?
That was it. In fact, my friend who had come to visit us for his haircut, I think he might have caught COVID on the flight, or he caught a bug because he was ill. As soon as he landed and he got back to the apartment, he felt ill. So he was ill for 3 days, and on the fourth day he flew back because Boris Johnson got on TV at that time and was just like, if there are any UK nationals, get back immediately. Yeah. So he was one of them, and at the time I was like, well, I'm here with, we're living here. It makes sense if you guys go. So he just got on flight straight back. So he didn't even get to enjoy or experience China as much as he wanted to because of the bug. Would you work there again? 100%. I'll go tomorrow. Really? If there was a flight waiting for me in the next hour, I'll go. I'm gone. Would you live there? 100%. 100%. Wow. I have unfinished business with China. I have a bridge that needs to be completed, in the sense where I started something where I want to finish in it. It's just basically developing the barbering there. The Chinese locals and the Chinese generation, when it comes to barbering, they have barbers and hairdressers that have come to China, and they've taught them, they've introduced them to new trends and stuff. China isn't like in the background. China knows we've got crazy artists out there that have got crazy hairstyles. But I think for me, it was more a case like where I could really open doors, and I was making a huge difference because I was on an island, not on the mainland. I was on the island, kind of like the Isle of Man in England. Yeah. I was off of the mainland. So for me, it was a really good way of... it was almost like a secluded environment for you to refine your craft. Clean slate. I got there and I learned everything I learned in the UK. I got there, I learned some more off of my, her name was SJ, the female barber. I learned loads off of SJ. And for me, it was just a case of every week, my clientele was growing. Because you become a valuable asset. You're a golden nugget. And how many people were living on this island? How big was it? You can get from one side to the other in about 7 hours. It's not huge, but it wasn't. You have to forgive me because I don't know the exact amount of population now, but I'll say there's a good 6 figures in there. Maybe like 300k. Maybe. Okay, so it's not an extremely small island like Malta or something. No. It's definitely up. Like if you was to look at Sharman on Google and look into, you'll see beautiful skyline scrapers, the architecture. There's a lot of mixture between rural, traditional like feel of China. You get the Buddhist temples, you get the being able to go out into the wild of China and seeing like the nature of it, and then you also get the city life, which is bustling. And because it's such a upgrowing city, you've got people who bring international businesses, so you feel you're a lot closer to home than you actually think. What was your social life like over there? Oh, it's awesome. Because you've got people that come over there to teach English as a foreign language. They studied TEFL or I think it's TEFL or something. Yeah. So they've studied that in university, like my ex-girlfriend. And when they get over there, you're just meeting it's just you guys, just bodies doing the same thing. People your age, people might be a little bit older because people have changed, careers and decided they wanted to teach. So you'll find people from all over the world because everyone from the world goes to China to teach. For the teaching side, I think it's good for the money-wise. They get taken care of quite well. But the social side was awesome because you also have to remember, as a barber, if I wanted a new fence today, I could go on my phone and scroll down and I know who to call, who might have a link for a new fence. If I wanted an electrician, I can call someone who knows a good electrician. If I wanted new trainers.
You've got a database and a half.
If I wanted someone who lived in the airline, someone who worked in the airlines, discount the price on the flight, I have good connections based off of the 6 years. And not even just that, just in general, the people I know because I've lived in Milton Keynes. I've got people I can call for almost anything. You do that all over again when you're there for such a long time. So during the period I was there, I was meeting artists, videographers, I was meeting MCs, I was meeting singers, I was meeting artists, I was meeting fellow teachers, I was meeting lawyers, professional basketballers, I was meeting actors, I was meeting so many people from not just locals, but like even celebrities. I don't want to say like A-list celebrities, but celebrities that are local in that area that are well known for what they did. I met loads. I built such a huge social like friendship group that's what was allowed. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to open a barbershop because I knew the amount of people that had shown me support, given me love, this was going to work out well for me. I could open a barbershop and the ideal kind of marketing would be those that have left England or international waters, come to China, but they miss their barber because maybe their barber is modernized and he's westernized and he knows how to do this typical haircut that they've been doing for years. But then in China, I had never met a barber that could do that for me. So there
was a gap in the market that you identified.
It was a huge, because I had so many people that just cried out for this, especially Afro-Caribbean. Because you might think, was there a lot of people, black people over there? There was this area there's an area where you travel from the island into the mainland, Guangzhou. There's small little cities everywhere, huge, Shenzhen, Guangzhou, huge everywhere. And there was an area within Guangzhou called Chocolate Land.
Okay. See where this is going.
Yeah. And it's kind of like how the Italians would refer to Africans as monkeys, but they don't see it as a racial slur. They had this in Guangzhou where they called it Chocolate Land, but they didn't mean it maliciously. It's just a way to describe dark-skinned people living over there. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I'd rather you call me Chocolate Land than the N-word, any day.
Yeah.
So getting over to Chocolate Land, what you'll find is it's more like a shopping area where you have stalls or mini shops around each other, like a little community. And you would have a shop run by South African. They might be selling food. If you're hungry and want to try Nigerian food, just go around the corner, you'll find another shop over there. If you needed fabric from your home country, there's a lady in that community that will be selling something close to what you're looking for. So there was such a beautiful community that was birthed that, for me, it was the food. I found so many restaurants and places that made me feel like home in Chocolate Land. But I felt more at home. I found people speaking my language. I just felt really connected. And all this time I thought there was hardly any Africans, but there's an abundance of them over there. There's an abundance of them. So my barbering clientele was just diverse at this point. It was all the Afro-Caribbeans wanted the black barber. Then you had some off the mainland who would travel to the island just for my services. And then you had the local Chinese kids. When I say kids, they're aspiring musicians. They are footballers. They're athletes. So they're young.
And you would conversate with them in English, I assume?
A lot of them could actually they could conversate with me in English, and they spoke good English. Some of them didn't, but the beauty of that is the translation apps.
Because they're advanced over there.
They are. And there are so many to choose from, but the beauty of it is that it's easier for you to be able to say what you want in English, and in an instant it'll be translated.
Was they speaking Mandarin or Cantonese over there?
Mandarin. And a lot of the translation apps anyway covered most of the languages around there.
And were you starting to pick up Mandarin when you were there? Or?
This is the problem. You become too relaxed and you rely too much on technology. If I went to China, I wish they never had Google translation apps because, for example, I work next to a shop, a convenience shop, and every now and then, as barbers as we do, we lose energy. When you want, nice can of Coke or a nice fruit juice or something to keep you going, snacks here and there. I'd run into the shop and the owner was a woman, couldn't have been a couple of years older than myself, but we just didn't speak English at all. The best way I knew how to go about this was grab what I wanted, get to the till, and wherever she said, I would look at her little LCD display next to the cashier, the till, and then it's kind of like here when you're using Google Play. Mm-hmm. The only difference is they key in how much it is, and then there's a QR code. You take your phone, you scan the QR code, and you're instantly debited. Mm-hmm. So it's not like you're going into your Halifax banking app. You find the person you want to transfer to, put the amount in, blah, blah, blah. It's a longer process. This is just snap the QR code, and it's sent. That person's already filled in how much they want from you. You tap it, it gets deducted. Very, very, I like how swift it was. Mm-hmm. So she used to just point at the figures, and I used to look at them, cool, take my phone, tap, gone. One day I came in there and her LCD screen was messed. It was broken. So she was saying it to me. She was saying 26 in Mandarin. And I'm like, nah. I'm looking at what I've got. I'm thinking, is this rounding up to 11 or 12 or 15? Yeah. Like, how much does she want? So at that moment, she started counting in Mandarin. And then I would look at her hands, and when she got to 10, she would do this, and when it was 11, she would flip round. So I knew she's counted 10 already. Now we're counting into until it got to 26. And she said something in Mandarin to me. So I gave her the translation, and she said, next time you come here, no translation apps. We just talk numbers. Mm. So my homework was to go away and learn figures.
Okay.
So when I come in there and she asked for a number, I had memorized that. Like the figures and that for me to be able to say.
That was the beginning of your learning experience.
But that was the end of it because Google Translation ruins it. When you go into a restaurant, I would have rather learned how to say restaurant etiquette, how to speak, how to order, how to say please, thank you, yes, mm-hmm. as opposed to me, can I get chicken chow mein please with a bowl of, beef ribs? And then it's already, what have I learnt? Yeah, it's rubbish. So exactly. I wish it never existed. But I think moving forward, if I return, I'm taking classes. I'm going to take some serious classes because I've even found TikTok accounts of African, like black guys, especially this one I'm following. He's a black guy speaking fluent Mandarin. He's been there 4 years.
Is he the Somali guy?
No,
There's a Somali guy who makes TikToks as well. He speaks fluent.
No, this guy's he's British.
Okay.
I think you could say he's from the West Africa, but he hasn't got an African accent. Mm-hmm. And it all started when he would. It looked like home. It just looked like where I was staying. He would go up to one of these little vendors on the street, and he would ask for like a little bao buns. It's
yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, right? Lovely, so he would ask for one, and the whole conversation's in Chinese, but in Mandarin. But the owners are thrown back because the accent's on point.
On point.
He's hitting the vowels like he should. So he sounds like a local, but he's been there 4 years. So for me, I envy that. I was looking at this thinking, I need that. He's going to a restaurant and having a conversation about food. Why can't I go learn this into a barbershop and say, how short do you want to go? And
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like the kind of same things I would talk to yourself and my customers here, I want to get to that stage. So I promised myself that if I return, I'm going to take it serious, even if it's like 3 hours a day. I'm just going to force it into my brain because one way or another it's going to get in there, and it's going to help me in the long run.
Absolutely. I mean, learning a new language just opens you up to a completely different world, doesn't it? Big time. And I even found that even when I returned here, I had a few Chinese customers walking into barbershops here in England. So it was like, I wish you learned how to speak Mandarin, because this is a perfect example where you can use your skill set. They wouldn't see it coming. Yeah,
man.
So China is a place you would go back, specifically that island that you were at.
Yep.
Is there another place that you think of that you'd love to work in? A country maybe to learn a slight variation of barbering that, is something that you've wanted to practice for a while? Or
I've never actually thought of that. I think I've never thought of it because I've never really had a country that's impacted me like China did. During COVID, I flew out to Zanzibar in Tanzania, and I was there for about 8 months. So during the time I was there, I also took my clippers with me, and I ended up, again, it was only for my purpose, but I ended up having people learn I was a barber. I had my tools, and I'll give them haircuts. Some of these haircuts were things they've never ever received. Some of the tools I used, they've never had. So to them, it was a mind-blowing experience. That was probably one of the second best places that I enjoyed. But the problem was financial stability. I couldn't work a whole day, even if it's a Friday or Saturday, in East Africa and be comfortable with what I made, because what they charge is cheap.
Of course.
So the majority of all the places I've got it's like £3-4 for a haircut. If I was to put my own prices, if I'm now charging 25 here, how am I going to justify having locals in East Africa pay almost £25, just so I can get paid, I can get by? It didn't really make sense. I think the answer to your question is, it's sort of tough, but it's not, because when I worked in IT, I was on a chair, I was at a desk for 8 years, staring out of a window. So you're always like, you feel cooped, so to speak. When I was in Africa cutting hair, I was cutting hair on the beach. I was in my shorts and my vest. I had the sun beaming on me. I had the summer breeze. I was doing what I loved. Mm-hmm. I could not create a better explanation or feeling than I did that day. What was the letdown was the finance. When I went to China, nothing changed. The heat in China is near enough the heat in Africa. I don't know how this math. I think it's just the equator line. Yeah. They get a lot of humidity in China, almost 97%. The kind of humidity when you walk from the front door and take 10 paces, you're sweating in buckets already. Wow. It's hot. Okay. I was cutting hair out there, and it was when you're in the sun and you get Mother Nature hitting you, it is a different feeling. Everything hits different. So for me, when I was on the beach cutting and I had this Indian Ocean to the left Beautiful. Of me, it was heaven on earth. It really was. I can't explain what I experienced. And I think because this barbering has taken me to these heights, it's allowed me to understand that if I was to ever leave this country, it has to be a country that has sunshine. And it has to be ideally a country that can support financially. If I was to go there with an idea, I need the idea to be able to bring the source of income where I can say I'm paying this shop off, but then I'm also, I'm good for myself.
Exactly.
I think if it's not China, it's Dubai.
Dubai. That's. I'm glad you brought that up. I was going to ask you about that actually as well, because you were mentioning it's got to be sunny and the finances have to be good, and I was putting together places in my mind that you could.
My mum's always she always wanted me to take the initiative to go to Dubai, even when I was working in corporate and IT. But I think.
Have you been before?
To Dubai, yes. Yeah. I've got family over there. But the time I was there it must have been like 2007, 2006.
Wow, okay.
So I was fairly young. Mm-hmm. It was fairly a few years back. But for me, it was more a case of you're in the land of gold, standing amongst money and luxury. You're just like, whoa, I can see why my mom wants me to move here. Mm-hmm. As time has gone on, I never really went back to Dubai or saw my family as they came out. But then you see what you see online. You see testimonials of people moving out there. I think Dubai last year was the number one destination for people to move if they're moving abroad. The number one was Dubai. You pay nothing on tax,
and you get sunshine and safety.
It's a state of land. It's a state where there's respect. There isn't corruption in the sense where it's like media filling you with some frenzy of just
fear mongering, and
there isn't any of that. No. And I think that's what I also liked in China. I had to connect to a VPN. The first 2 months, I used to connect to a VPN to connect back into the Western servers for me to access stuff like YouTube, Daily Mail, stuff like, but I'm accessing them for a dopamine hit. Now hear what I'm saying? I'm looking online, but then what I'm presented with is news and things that are just negative. there is more deaths, there's more negativity, there's things that just don't make sense in the news. But then I turn my VPN off, and I promise you, the way China focuses, mental being is up there.
And this is why they're leading in terms of global superpowers at the moment. Look at what their kids are learning in schools.
The morals that these kids learn shit on the rest of the world. Even though you shouldn't be taught, right and wrong, like you should be able to instinctively know, I shouldn't be doing this, I should be doing that. This gets drilled into a lot of the youth of the Chinese population.
It's work ethic, it's discipline,
Big time.
It's etiquette.
Big time. They can do easy 70 hours a week, 60 hours a week, and not think about that. They're very focused, determined, hard-working individuals. So when you're young, you get drilled so early, and then you morph into this adolescence where you're just like, okay, discipline, hard-working. Like your mind is so focused. So you get to a stage where if the whole nation was behaving like this, my friend, the rest of the world is in big trouble, man.
Yeah.
Like, they knew what they were doing. So I think for me, it was just a case of understanding that when you're in China, it's a safe place for your mindset. A big place.
And I feel like they're optimistic for the future as well. Unlike a lot of the Western world now, where, because you mentioned, obviously, there's on the news, it's just destruction, negativity, wars, deaths. It makes the nations pessimistic.
Yeah.
Whereas over there, I feel that they're instilling this, this hope for the younger generation that China will be even stronger in the future, and there will be so many more opportunities. And some would say in the West, but that's just propaganda. They want them to not see the rest of the world or whatever. There may be an element of that, but what I see is that they want their nation to be ahead of every other nation in every metric.
If I'm honest with you, where I was, even though it was just a small island off of the mainland, where I was, they're 5 years ahead. They are 5 years ahead of everyone else. I say this because of just, you have to be an observer before anything. When I got to China, I had to observe everything that was different for me to be able to adapt cleanly. You can go to a restaurant in China and no one will come out to serve you. No one will greet you. You can go in there, sit down. There's a menu on the table with a QR code. The moment you scan that QR code, you instantly begin to order what you want. 10 minutes later, someone will bring your food out to you. When you've finished ordering your drinks or eating, having dessert, whatever the case may be, you're going to hit Pay Now on your app after scanning this QR code. And a woman is going to come out and either take payment from you in the form of cash or take your phone and you're going to tap it, hit the QR code, and you paid. You've taken the whole idea of employees out of the way. You don't need 5 or 6. You need one. Because they help themselves to a table. You don't need to waste your time explaining what your restaurant's serving. Because once you hit that QR code, it's all digitalized. It's all tech. Everything is just to make it easy for you. You finish, you leave. The people in the restaurant, their job, they understand, is clean up after them once they're gone and just take their pay. Anything in between, they can answer. Okay, but you can essentially have the husband as the chef and mom as the waitress, and you don't have to worry about anything.
That's it.
So when I say, that's a small example of how I like the efficiency of how they worked. So when I say they're 5 years ahead, in terms of they have the social system, the social structure, and how they, how people earn their points and
the social credit.
That's it. The credit. Yeah. They have their own, and I think it puts people in line. The West is screaming, no, if you do that to me, you're taking away my rights. No, you can't judge me based on my points, blah, 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 blah. But you actually don't understand how healthy it is, because people are in check, not in a sense where they're controlled. I'm not saying that this is the whole draconian lifestyle where, communism has peak in China, blah, blah, blah. Play your cards right. Play your cards right. Be the role that you're supposed to play in China. My friend, you're going to see the benefits of life. I went in there and I don't drink. I'm not a drinker, but I had gone to a few bars with a few friends because, as you do, it's a social thing out there. I'm not a drinker, but there were times where back in the day I used to have a little sip here and there. I understood that there were people who got overly drunk in England. A quick fight here and there, you get arrested by the old bill. You might wake up in a cell in the morning. You might get sent home by the old bill. This is typically how it happens over here. Over there, no one is chasing you. No police are coming after you because there's cameras everywhere. There's cameras in after every 10 feet. There's a line of cameras, so you're never going to be able to hide. That's one. If you are the up citizen, if you are the up citizen. I'm saying this wrong. If you're the citizen that you're supposed to be,
if you're upholding to the law,
thank you.
Yeah.
If you're a law-abiding citizen,
Okay.
if you're a law-abiding citizen, you'll find that you're following the rules, and because of you following the rules, you're going to live a very prosperous and abundant life. But if you're going to have a fight with someone at a bar in China and really cause destruction, and then end up escaping or something, you're going to get found. Your WeChat, which is their WhatsApp, is heavily linked to a lot of those cameras. Based on your geographical location, you are going to be tracked. So you do something stupid, you're going to lose points.
Yeah.
You lose points, you're not going to be able to get the services or enjoy the fruits of your labor.
As it should be.
As it should be. There was an individual who had a mum who was sick in Shanghai. He was on the other side of the country, and there was only one way to get to his mum quick enough. And that was the bullet train. Get on the bullet train, took him like 6 hours to get from one side to the other. Something stupid like that. He lacked the points. His social credit score, he lacked it. There was he was like short, I don't know how many. He couldn't get on that bullet train. So he had to ride the standardized rail. 14 hours? I think it took him 14 hours to get to his mum.
Wow.
So imagine if mum was in a life critical condition. She was going to pass away before night. Like, could you afford 14 hours of like, you know what I mean? So I can understand where it might not be able to help you, but then at the same time, excuse my French, you don't have to be a dick. You don't have to be a dick. Just live a decent life. Be a good human.
Yeah.
Like, show love. Like, be kind.
Exactly.
Treat your neighbor how you would want to be treated.
Yeah.
Then at the same time, trying to look at that and go, yeah, okay, cool. We like this. Let's make the place that you live beautiful. They're going to build skyscrapers. They're going to build things that the world is going to be like, you know what I mean? China are ahead. They're ahead. They're 5 years ahead. They're ahead when they're raising the young. They're ahead when it comes to technology-wise. They're ahead when it comes to not even religious. Because when I say religious, like the rest of the world, we're in a clash. Islam and Christianity. Judaism is in there. There's so much conflict going on with religion in the westernized world. But they're very spiritual in China. They don't believe in that. There's just negative stories about the Uyghurs and how they, torture Muslims that come from Mongolia and those kind of... There are rumors and stories. But in essence, they're people that they just believe in themselves. Believe in yourself.
I feel like they mind their own business.
Big time.
That the household sticks together. They have a philosophy that they live by. And this is why even when they come to the West, they do really well.
Yeah, they do.
Because it's that blueprint.
100%.
It's ingrained in every single person.
100%.
And so when they thrive here, in my opinion, no person in this country has the right to say, oh, they're coming over here and look at what they're doing. They're taking our opportunities. They're creating those opportunities for themselves. This isn't a coincidence that they're doing so well. And just to touch on what you mentioned about, the whole social credit system and being penalized for, breaking the law. I think that's fantastic. And I think a lot of countries now are looking at what China's doing and they're like, you know what? I think Dubai now is doing it on their motorways. They're creating smart motorways where if you throw something out the window, it will track your number plate. It will link it to your house. I think that's brilliant. Yeah. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Yeah. If you do something like litter unnecessarily, if you cause havoc in a restaurant, or if you leave without paying, you should be penalized. Yeah, and that would make people think twice. I think one of the reasons why the West is struggling right now and there's a lot of lawlessness and chaos is because we only do a little slap on the wrist. Don't do that again. I mean, in this country, people have gotten away with literally murder. 4 or 5 years in prison, they're back out. They cause havoc. They break into someone's jewelry store, steal hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of jewelry, 18 months and community service or whatever. And that's it. If that was to happen in China, or if that was to happen even right now in Dubai, to be fair, they're very strict. Very. I mean, if you're caught with even one of those, I think, cannabis gummies or whatever. 5 years or something. You're in prison for a long time. I know there was that one English guy once who, I don't know if if he wasn't aware that it happened to him and someone snuck it in his luggage. But I think he was given 25 years.
Whoa.
You know? So
Whoa.
someone in the West might look at that and think, man, these guys don't mess about. You know, I don't want to go there because, well, then just don't get in trouble. Go there. But at least you can feel when you're there that there's order. And if anybody was to mess about, like how many people in the UK can confidently say they have confidence in law enforcement, in the police? Now, if you call the police, I remember many, many years ago, my family's house was burgled. And I remember when I called the police, because I was the first person to see that it had been, they said, oh, sorry, we can't come until next week. And it was a Friday. I was like, what? You can't come until next week? And then they came the following week, and they said, leave everything as it is. So I had to stay in the house. And at the time, I was the only one there. I had to stay in the house with everything all over the place. So what kind of country is this? I have to wait until next week for some police officer to come and have a look. So, you know, I think that's very important. I know there's you know, there's two sides of the coin, and, you know, there's other people that would argue about how free you really are, if that's the case. But I think we need some of that good old-fashioned tough love. You know?
I think so. I think the only difficult part is that the place we live in a country where everybody feels entitled to have rights, which they do, but there are some rights that are kind of just, it's taken too far. So there are people who, you know, freedom of speech, and there are some things you can't do in China that you can do in England. There are some things that, you know, you could kind of get away with in the UK. But at the same time, I think if you nip those in the bud, you'll see a change in a lot of the daily functions that the country actually goes through. In China, if you was to go to a nightclub and have a great time and get smashed off of your head, and you and friends decide to walk over to your local, there's going to be something open selling something, and you decide to nibble on something. This is a very true example as well. If you decide to then walk home, which isn't too far from where you are if you're living in downtown, if you decide to walk home, there's a chance, very high chance, that you're going to walk past maybe a building that has benches outside, or maybe a park. I lived along a river bay, and you could walk beside it. There are bridges in the middle, but these bridges are lit up, and they look really pretty at night. You know, so if you're walking with your partner or your friends and stuff, it's really nice stroll to enjoy. Don't forget, I said the humidity was nice over there, so the weather, everything is working in your direction. You cross over, you're going home. There's a high possibility that you're going to pass a bench that has either one, maximum because of the size of the bench, 3 old ladies. You're gonna see, she can either be by herself, or there's gonna be 3 of them sitting there. Mm-hmm. Don't forget what I said to you. You've just finished the nightclub. You've just grabbed some food. So it's, what time is it? 3, 4 in the morning. Okay. Why are you walking past a bench and then seeing these ladies sitting there? Mm. So it has to be a wake-up call for you to understand you are in a country, in a place where if you go and get smashed off of your head and you end up, and you know what alcohol does to you, you could either be a dick, you could either be amazing. So if you're going to come out there and have the wrong argument with someone, you could end up in a fight. Mm-hmm. You could end up tripping over yourself, hit your head against the pavement, brain damage. You don't know what can happen when you're drunk. But at 3 in the morning, when you've just left the nightclub, these grandmas don't have the slightest worry about what's happening at 3 in the morning. I've witnessed 3, like literally, I've seen 3 grandmas sitting on the bench with tablets out. Like she's got hers, she's got hers, she's got hers. They're chilling there, surfing. One of them got headphones, watching something like a soap or something, right? 3 in the morning. We're coming back steamed, going back home. And these 3 are sat there. It tells you, 1, about their security. No Chinese person. Or international. Or however you want to call them. Whether they're foreigners, Chinese. Expats. Yeah. Whatever you want to call them. No one's going to make any move. No one's going to commit a crime. Either you're shitting yourself because of the outcome, or it's just instilled into you that it's not worth it. I walked past countless of times. My role compared to my ex role was slightly different. She worked a 9 to 5 job, so she had to be in bed early to be able to wake up early. My job finished late into the night, 9, 10 o'clock. So by the time we finished, there's a social thing going on. Oh, let's go to this bar, let's have a drink. Oh, let's go see these friends. So I'm going to go with them. You know, these are the people I work with. If I'm tired, I'll go home. I'll see them the next day. More time, if you go with these guys and you go and have fun, blah, 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 I see them by myself. I leave them and go home and walk because it's safe. I'm never drunk off of my head. I don't get to that stage or consume it in that way. But it's when I'm making my way home, I would see them and I'm aware of this. And I'm like, no fear. They have no fear. They have no fear, brother. Swap those two scenarios and put it in England. What's going to happen 3 a.m. if 3 grannies are sitting on the bench and you're walking back from revolutions and you walk past them? Or even if it's not just you walking past revolution, what if it's someone random and there's 3 grandmas sitting on a bench with tablets out 3 a.m? What do you think's going to happen in the UK? Exactly, right?
Man.
It blew my mind away
Yeah.
when there was absolute peace in China. It blew my mind away.
Yeah.
So I realized that I'm in one of the safest countries. No one, if I'm laying there, my phone's beside me, and I turn my back, and I'm laying on a field in a park, and my phone's beside me, and I turn my back, and I lay there, my back is towards the phone, no one's stealing my phone. No one's taking it. Because there's an abundance of everything.
Yeah.
There's an abundance of no one's homeless. Because someone's got a job. There's a job for you. You see here we've got Deliveroo. I ask a few Deliveroo customers, people who work for them, and Uber. And I said to them, is competition tough? Like, yeah, man. Like there's loads of people trying to jump on this Uber Eats thing on Deliveroo, and Deliveroo pays the best, and everyone's trying to fight for it, and you just got to be quick. And China, they're everywhere. There's about 6, 7 different types of Deliveroos, and there's jobs everywhere. There's so many people living in China that so many mouths need to be fed. So if so many mouths needs to be fed, we need an abundance of riders that are going to deliver your food to you. No one takes the piss. Your food is at your door pronto, because there's an abundance of workers.
Wow.
You can't have your phone stolen because everyone has a smartphone. Everyone has a smartphone.
Yeah.
They're made there, right? Everyone has a smartphone. If your phone breaks, don't go buy a new one. Walk down towards the high street where all the technology shops are and go down the alleyway, and you'll find a whole bunch of workers who've got specializing in screens, specializing in CPUs, specializing in motherboards, specializing in buttons, specializing in this.
Wow.
If you have a problem with your phone, just take it on them. They will fix your phone in less than 5-10 minutes right there in front of you and charge you 900 times cheaper than you would do if you went into an actual high street shop.
Yeah.
So I've realized that the Chinese community are hardworking individuals. Very
Do you think
honest.
that's what we're missing here?
Big time. It's too much of a handout here. Everybody's given a helping hand. There's too much of a helping hand anywhere in everything that we do. Whether you're not working, you're going to go claim. Whether you've got kids and you're single, you're going to go claim. It doesn't matter. Whatever the situation is, this country will throw money at you. Will make it easier for you so you don't struggle. China, there isn't that.
Sometimes not providing a safety blanket is the best thing you could do for somebody,
think so.
even though in the moment it's very stressful. Because I see it with a lot of people that I know, families from different backgrounds, relying on the government unnecessarily for far too long. I can imagine if you're fleeing war, you're here,
Yeah, it's a different
you're
story.
genuinely concerned for your family's safety. And even now, apparently they're changing that so that not anybody can claim asylum from war. You have to really prove that you're a target, because it's an easy card for someone to play nowadays. But I feel like a lot of people in this country, whether it be Brits or non-Brits, like you said, they kick back. The government will pay for me. I'll jump on benefits. They'll give me a house, and they keep having kids in an environment that is not pleasant to raise a kid in, because they know if they have another couple more, the council will give them an even bigger house, and then they will live an even cushier lifestyle. And that's one thing I don't like seeing in this country, and that's why I can sympathise, not fully support, but I could sympathise with some British people in this country that say some people are abusing the system, because there are some people, and it's not just immigrants. There are also Brits, that are fully capable of working, that are relying on the system.
Yeah, that's true.
Because they see a weakness in it. And as human beings, when we see a weakness in something, we take advantage. So I do definitely respect the mentality that they have in Asia. I mean, I've never been to China, but from what you're describing, everyone their work is something that they take great pride in.
Big time.
And even if they're not doing something they enjoy, there's that responsibility and that duty. I can't be unemployed. I'm a man. I need to work.
Honestly, it's so difficult to find someone who's unemployed or even homeless. It's very hard for me to. I'm not saying I was trying to make it my game to try and.
But you
spot
notice
something.
these things, don't you?
You notice them, and I even said to LC, I was like, "Bro, how come people like there's no?" And he goes, "If you are seen as someone who's homeless, they're not going to ask you, oh, what's wrong? Oh, how can I help?' They're going to say, why? If you've got these and you've got your legs, off you go." Chinese, when they look at people, you need to have no legs and no arms for you to be able to fully justify yourself as not being able to work. Because everyone's got something to do. Whether it's not something that you 100% love, there is opportunity for work. I don't know this, but I think I want to think that commonly the best business for an Asian couple, Chinese couple, if they were just to get married, would probably go open a restaurant. Because it's you're buying for pennies, you're selling for pounds, and then at the same time, there's so many mouths to feed. You know, so I think a lot of them, when they get married, you can't go wrong with opening a restaurant.
Well, the nail.
Or nails, yeah.
Because they're the best at it, I swear.
Because they're everywhere, yeah. So one of those two jobs, because it's such it's a place of abundance. There's never a lack of. There isn't a lack of. You can't. I don't know how. It's just difficult to see people struggling. The community, the locals, it's difficult to see them struggling. Everybody seems to be, as long as they're fit, it's like they've been drilled, like you're capable of working. That's why I think what you spoke of before, as soon as they come to this country, you see them, they're just hard workers. They just get down to business, put their head down and grind. So we have to look back and say, yo, actually, wow, I'm impressed. You take me back, because where I'm from, we got people that don't give two shits about working, and they'll go and claim, and they'll sit at home and just, you know what I mean? So it's definitely refreshing to be in an environment where you're challenged to do more. I think with me in barbering, it was a case of I was in a new pond. So I really had to make my mark. I really had to stand out from the crowd. And I did so because I'm going back to what I said about being a good and a great barber. I couldn't speak Mandarin to a lot of these customers, but I can tell you now, we would hug it out like we were brothers at the end of that haircut. I might not, there might be a language barrier, but these skill sets, when it comes to the clippers and the shearing, it's transmutable in anywhere on this planet. I can give anybody a haircut and make them feel £1 million. And I don't have to speak your language. Show me a picture and I'll do the rest. Show me a picture and I'll do the rest. So I think for me, when I went in the industry of barbering, what I loved, I didn't have to speak English to make my mark. I didn't have to speak English to show you how good I am. I made amazing friends. Amazing. I created opportunities that I didn't think I would. I've actually registered a business in Sharman where I was, because prior to us leaving, I had actually gone out my way to register a company so I could actually begin opening a shop in Sharman. But unfortunately, when COVID hit and I came back here, the barber never stopped for me. So I came back here and I joined forces with Nyam. Please understand, so my explanation of Nyam is 2017, I was standing behind him watching how to cut hair. I went to barber school 2018. I graduated, came out. I didn't go back to him. I worked in hairdressers because I needed to learn the artwork of shearing and thinning and how these guys are doing textured haircuts. So I was already specialised in Afro. Now I was going into the Caucasian side with the shears. Then I was like, I love this. And then that's when it was like, let's go China. So taking those skill sets to China, you're learning something new. I started to grow new skill sets, started to learn a bit of life in a different manner. Going from there, coming back into here during lockdown, allowed me to go back into East Africa. So now I was learning Afro-Caribbean African haircuts at its core. No enhancers, no special tools. Even those barbers that are struggling in a very small shack of a shop and they're struggling to try and get this fade just right. My brother, those guys are doing haircuts that are 10 times better than the ones I could tell you that I hear established in Milton Keynes. There are barbers that have less equipment and have less opportunities that are outshining these guys that are on social media claiming to be good barbers. So what allowed me to grow into this point where I was just like, I found something that I love. I found places where I can take this job. I can go to Alaska. I can go to the Antarctica. And if someone is there, someone's going to need a haircut.
That's what's powerful about it. Is it's a universal skill set.
Big time.
You can take it anywhere.
Big time.
And this is, I mean, I want you to address a young man who's watching this video, because I fully respect, crafts such as barbering, which demand a lot of attention to detail. Like we spoke, this care to provide a great service. If someone's looking at this video, watching this podcast right now, thinking, you know what, it does interest me, I want to get into it. What advice would you give them to navigate their way through it? Would you tell them to do anything differently to how you did it?
I think for me, because it happened in such a I didn't go for it. I didn't chase barbering because it had come to me. I feel as though this was a calling from the higher powers. I feel as though when I was originally in the corporate world, I was a sheep. I felt I was earning a capped amount every month or year. I would work a certain amount of hours. I would lose the opportunity to know thyself because I am part of a matrix. I'm partly in a matrix. So what I needed to do was to figure out if this felt right for me. When I first started, I liked the idea of going from messy to clean. I liked when someone came in looking like Shaggy, their hair's everywhere, their beard is outgrown, and they show you a picture of something clean cut, crisp. How do you do that to that? That was how do I get there? So I think for anyone starting, they've first got to try and understand, when you look at barbering, forget everything that's like a distraction. It's more or less when you look at someone with who's looking rough, who looks like they need a serious cleanup. Can you see an image? Can you see an outcome? Can you see something in your mind that you can create in that individual's haircut? For me, it was being able to stand there and say, what do you want? And they'll tell me what they want. And in my head, I don't know, for some reason in my head, it was like there was a version of me that exists in my head that was already doing this haircut. So when he said, can I get a 2 back and sides? I'm viewing myself as the third person, viewing myself, and I'm cutting this guy's hair, but I'm doing it like perfect the way he wants to. He wanted this haircut, I'm giving him this haircut, but all of this is in my head, and it's during the consultation. How do you want your back? Do you want it squared off or do you want it tapered? More time, they don't know what tapered means. So then I start to realize I've got to change my terminology because I've got to change like how I'm talking to certain people. Do you want it natural on the back or do you want a straight line? Things start to make sense for people. You know what I mean? When you speak to someone, if they understand you and you understand them, but in the sense where it's psychology at its best, your relationship, your rapport becomes a lot easier with that person. For instance, people who are watching this and thinking, I want to be a barber, but I don't know what I'm getting myself into. I just like the creativeness behind it. It's about understanding, one, the creativeness. Yes, you will be able to create art from nothing. 2, you're doing something to someone. That person who came into your shop was hopeless. The person who came to your shop was worth £50 in their head. The person who came to your shop didn't bother combing through their hair because it might just puff it out already as it is because they just look rough. But you had the obligation to deliver some form of energy from you to him, to create something that makes him walk out of there going, I feel like $1 million. Like, I've got people that would specifically come to me before a haircut, before an interview, before a date, before traveling, before any
a wedding, probably.
It's that huge eruption of I feel alive again. Like oh my god, all my youngers, all of the youths that I cut, all of them, the first thing they do as soon as I cut their hair is jump on Snapchat, is jump on Instagram, is jumping on social media. Because they're showing off. Yeah. They're showing off. They're showing off. Yeah. They love how I make them feel. Okay, I give them an honest job. And here's the other. I think the other truth is, because I hated the fact that you used to tell a barber, Can I get a low skin fade? And then he goes and gives you a high skin fade. You can't put that hair back on the customer's head. You've ruined that kid's head for the next 3 weeks. So my goal was never to do what barbers did to me. My goal was to give you what barbers never gave customers. 5 minutes consultation. Before your haircut. If I already know you, no need for a 5-minute consultation. I'll just say, same as usual, boss. Same as usual, boss. But if it's the first time I'm meeting you, I'm going to say to you, what do you want? I'm going to understand thoroughly and then deliver it. But again, going back to those kids that are watching, figure out if you like to be creative. That's number 1. 2, people. You can't go into this. Don't apply for this industry. Don't try and get into this industry if you struggle or have a very difficult time being able to keep up with someone for half an hour. Like one-on-one for half an hour. If that's too difficult for you, maybe this ain't the right job for you. Because not only do you have to do that for half an hour, but you got to do that from the start of your shift to the end of your shift. And how many customers are you going to cut in between that? You know, a busy shop, 20, 30. A less busy shop, 5, 6. 5, 6 is still a lot for someone who's an introvert.
Exactly.
So you got to understand creativity, people. Are you a people's person? Can you see yourself being able to build a rapport? I come from customer service, so for me it was easy. So maybe there's someone here who worked at Marks and Spencer's or worked at Tesco's and had the odd collision with someone, you know, oh, excuse me, where's the milk? Where can I get your bread? Where can I get your deodorant? Oh yeah, it's up this way, madam. Yeah, it's so. If you're happy with that, this is a great job for you. This is a great job for you. And I think the last part is, if you want to be a boss, not in the sense where I'm talking gangster or I'm talking comical, you might be working for a company right now that has a boss. And that boss is giving you rules and regulations for you to follow so you can get paid a certain amount at the end of the month. That boss is where you want to be. That boss is the aspirations that you should be looking at to say, okay, I'm a barber, I can cut hair, but at the same time, how far can I take this? Could I own my own shop? The answer is yes. Can I employ good people to work with me? The answer is yes. Can I put a service and have a theme where people can feel family orientated and also those young individual, you know? Yes, the answer is yes. There's a story of 2 barbershops side by side. One heavily invested with money. The other one was been there since day dot. And the one that was heavily invested, hardly anyone went in there. But the one that's been there for time obviously had its returning customers. Some of these customers went to the new one, hated it, went back to the old one. The reason why the old shop was still consistent is the energy. 2 shops were side by side. One was flopping and one was skyrocketing. What is the difference? Both barbers can do the same job. He can do your skin fade, he can do your skin fade. What's the difference? Energy. It's the energy that sells. It's not the haircut. It's the energy. So you put in the creativity, you put in the skill set of you being a barber, you put in the people's person, and then you've got to look and say, can I be a boss? Can I work for myself? Call the hours I want to, charge the prices I want to, flex for my own terms and regular. Like, can I do this? And will it work out for me? The answer is yes. The answer is yes. And anybody looking to do this, whether you're a female, whether you're a male, whether you're in your 50s, whether you're 15, barbering is an industry that you can get into and go this way, 100%. The only way you fail is when you have a lack, when you have a fear, when you have a disbelief of yourself. Because remember, I was a barber who, when I went to barber school, I just wanted the best. I wanted to know how to cut hair. I wanted to know how to use the shears. But before that, I had belief. I was like, yeah, I can be a barber.
Yeah.
I'm looking at Nyam and I'm looking at how he's finessing these haircuts and I'm like, fuck, I can never get to that stage. And by the higher powers, by my belief in myself, by my focus and my determination, the positivity, the willingness, the drive, I can honestly say today that Nyam and I used to work in a shop. This guy has 35 years experience. He's classified as probably, in my opinion, the best barber in Milton Keynes, okay? A customer came into our shop and he came up to us and he held a picture of himself and he said, I had this haircut last time, but I don't know which one of you cut it. He came in with a picture. He had a haircut from us. And he said, I want this, but I don't know who cut me. You do not understand.
Yeah.
I could have cried. I could have cried, my friend.
That must have been
like
incredible.
even thinking about it now, I feel I can taste, like I can feel my eyes, like I can feel that warmth that I had that day. This guy had said, I don't know who cut
It's
my
a
hair.
testament to how far you've come.
To how far I come. So I knew that during that process, I learned something from Nyam. I knew I possessed something that when I was like, how do I get to his level? How do I get to how good he is? I've got there. But then at the same time, I'm like, this is my 6th year. This time it was my 5th year. This guy's been doing it for what, 35? So, okay, 5 years, I've got a customer confused who cut his hair. I must be all right. I must be good.
Yeah.
What happens in another 30 years? Forget 30. What happens in another 5 years?
Exactly.
You know. So I knew my decision to go into this industry was the most beneficial for me. I knew it worked out for me because I'm able to give something back to people. The money wasn't necessarily a chase for me because in the first year of my barbering, before I went to barber school, I told everyone free haircut.
You just wanted to
let me
become
practice.
as good as possible, yeah.
Just let me practice. So I had all my friends. I even had people that hardly ever came to me hearing that it was free. They're booking up.
Everybody wants something for free, yeah.
And when it's free, they take the piss. Your friends and your closest ones, they take the piss because it goes to the stage where they were getting a haircut every week, and I'm like, you don't, nothing has grown back. Like, just chill. It's free for like another 9 months, but just chill. And it was only until I went to barber school, and I said to everyone when I come out, my prices are £15. This was like 4 years ago, so I was like, look, prices were low. I was like, let's just do this for £15, and then every year it went up a £5, but no one questions my prices. Now I even get people who pay my haircuts the fees and tip on top. And you only see tipping happening in a traditional barbershop. And when I say traditional, I refer back to more Caucasian, more European haircuts because that's the tradition that they know. Tip your barber. Afro-Caribbeans barbershops, you'll never find that traditional aspect of the customer tipping away. Never. So I think for me, it was even more. It was a pleasant surprise that I have my black customers that will pay for the haircut and be like, bro, here's a tip. And I just don't expect that from my black customers because that's not how we're conditioned. So for me, I like that I've gone into two worlds. I'm in the middle of two worlds and I'm able to mix both sides in a way where it's influential for my growth. So I can give a Caucasian a typical Afro-Caribbean haircut and have them feel as though they were afraid to go into that black barbershop because they're a white guy and they might get judged differently.
Question on that. I was going to ask you to say, I've been saving this one up. Controversial, but what would you say to somebody who, because you mentioned earlier, some of the Chinese customers, the younger guys were asking you for some sort of African-American inspired, Afro-Caribbean inspired haircuts. Some would say, well, that's cultural appropriation. You know, you're trying to copy our culture, you know. You see a white guy with dreads, you know. Some people don't like that.
Yeah.
What's your thought process on that? Do you think, well, it's just hair? Or do you sympathize with that viewpoint of, yeah, you are appropriating?
If an individual is to do that maliciously, intentfully, their intent is to take the piss out of black culture, or doing it just because they're like, yeah, whatever, I will have a problem with it. When you're trying to be something you're not, but doing it maliciously, I will have a problem with that. The Chinese nationals are innocent because they're maliciously not trying to be racist to me. They're not trying to make me feel like a monkey in most countries I've been to. When I see them coming with it, I welcome it. I welcome it because, my brother, we're here in this earth temporarily. I could die tomorrow. That Chinese customer could have died the next day. But he did something where he's living life. If he comes in and asks for his hair to be permed, that's your business. Have fun with it. You only live once. So if you want to dye your hair, if you want to perm your hair, go ahead. If you are a white guy and you want to lock your hair and walk around with dreads, so be it. But you need to understand the repercussions that come with it. You might find an individual that might not like what they see, and you might get a battering of your life. You might find people that will accept and will not accept. So for me personally, I'm the acceptance guy. If I have a customer that walks into my shop who does not look like the ethnicity that they stand behind, then I'm not going to judge you.
So it's the intentions really that you focus on?
It's the intentions. I know barbers that have a problem with gender. We live in 2024 where anybody can feel like they're anything, even though that they're not. So I have customers that come to me that are, honestly, bro, I can't pronounce some of these pronouns, but
non-binary and stuff.
Yeah, there's a vast of them. So when they come, I never look at them like, you used to be a bloke, now you're a woman. Yeah. I never look at them like, you're non-binary.
You just address them as they want to be addressed.
What do you want done? Can I have this picture? I don't look at the picture and see as a male. Okay, you might see a mustache or you might see long, but I don't instantly say I know what gender this is. I look at the haircut and go, can I do this on your head? I'm business minded. If you come to me, we're going to talk business, we're going to do business. If you come to me wrong, intentfully try to maliciously break me down, make me feel stupid, then it's war. Yeah. Then it's war. But when you come to me on a business mind, I'm going to treat you like a business customer. If you're gay, I welcome you to my seat. If you're lesbian, if you're trans, come and sit on my chair. Let's have a conversation about life. The only thing I do say is don't flood that on me. I'm a straight heterosexual man. If you tell me you're gay and then you're trying to shower your gender onto me, and I feel that's wrong or you've gone too far, then I'll speak out. If I feel as though you're trying to manipulate my mind in some sort of way, then that's where I've got a problem. But apart from that, brother, be free. My sister, be free. Live life. If you feel as though you are something, enjoy it as much as you can. I'll never have a problem with anybody unless they bring a problem to me. Yeah,
unless they force it upon you.
That's it. So my customer base varies. I've got young females. I have to say it this way, and if you're watching, I apologize. I have young females who transitioned to boys. They've changed their genders. I've uploaded a video on my Instagram as a joke, and it was actually pretty good. It was a contrast between woke and ethnic customers. And the woke customers, it was the female barber having the individual in their chair, and they will start off with, I'm going to deem it as silly questions.
Is that the one that was, oh, can I touch your hair? Do I have your permission?
It's like, it's so political now. Yeah. It's like, can I touch your hair? Like, is this okay? What do I like?
What are your pronouns?
And then you've got the ethnics that are like, motherfucker, cut my hair. Like, what are you doing? Stop this bullshit. Yeah. There's such a huge difference. And I uploaded I didn't get a backlash or anything. I actually got a lot of my LGBTQ community laugh and respond back because they know I'm not that kind of person. But I did it to show the vast difference in where the society that we live. If I was in a shop and I was in the heart of London, where it's multiculturally different over there, and someone came in there, I'll have no choice but to just treat them as a normal, happy customer. I can't ruin the business. It might not be my shop. Do you know what I mean? There's so many factors within it. In today's world, you could give someone who part of the LGBT, you can give them such a bad experience. Social media the next day, you're ruined. Yeah. You're ruined. Imagine having 100k followers and you say the wrong thing to the wrong individual, or you say the wrong thing on camera.
The mob is out to get you.
The mob is out to get you. So it's better off being kind to unkind people. It's better off showing love. It's better off. My skill set never taught me to discriminate.
Yeah.
When I went to the London School of Barbering, they didn't teach me racism or to discriminate or don't do this hair, don't do that hair. It taught me how to cut hair.
Exactly.
I love hair.
You're a professional. That's what you do.
I love hair. I love what I can do with hair. I love the levels I can take it to, the depths. I love everything about hair. So for me, it's just more of a case of acceptance. I don't care who you are, but just bring love to my doorstep, and I'll make you feel like $1 million. That's the way I
love
view
that.
it.
I love that. So there's no real political agenda behind it. There's no fear behind you. You know, staying firm to your beliefs.
Yeah.
As long as that person's there for a haircut and they're being respectful to you, you're going to get on.
That's it.
You're going to give them the best haircut possible.
That's it. Whatever you believe in, whatever you walked into my shop believing, we can talk about it, but keep it to yourself at the same time. Be respectful that I might not be interested in your beliefs. I'm interested in the conversation. Maybe I might have this conversation 4 hours later with another guy, and I could bring this conversation up. But I don't want you to like you have the need to overweigh your beliefs, so it flows into my reality.
Yeah.
That's where we stand very different. I also have worked with barbers that discriminate. I've worked with barbers who will not cut someone who's gay or someone who's trans, and I think that's unfair, because it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to turn gay or you're going to want to become trans.
Exactly.
You know, you let yourself down.
It's also not a smart business decision.
It's not. That individual, his hair doesn't affect you. Maybe his beliefs, maybe what he dresses, maybe how he talks might affect you. It might. But his hair literally does nothing. So why would you discriminate over cutting someone's hair? So for me, it's I've worked with barbers who have done that, and I think moving forward, if I ever have a barber shop, the crew has to be just talk with passion, talk with love.
You have to reflect your values.
Big time.
Of being open, you know, being respectful of different opinions and different viewpoints.
Big time.
And that's what I think. I mean, it shouldn't be personal. You know, someone's there, they may be gay, they're sat down, they're having a chat with you. They're not overstepping and, you know, trying to sway you one direction. You know, they're just there to have their haircut. You know?
In this is where it kind of links into the mental health, because as a barber, I'm not just a barber. This is on behalf of all the other barbers that are out there in the world. Whether you come across to find this now or in due time, whether you're starting and you are given this as a heads up, you're not a barber. You're a counselor. You're a therapist. You're a best friend that they never had. You're a provider. You're a healer. You're a motivational speaker. You're an inspiring figure to them. To some people, you're a savior. I have worked with people that have made me understand that barbering is going into another spectrum now. And it's the relationship that the barber and the customer have that's beyond the haircut. Some of the conversations I've had with some of the customers are dark. Some conversations I've had, you get given a very, very difficult job to do, in a sense where you have to hold secrets. You are a gatekeeper of so much dark and twisted secrets in this industry from customers. You have to question your mental health. I've never been in a position where I've compromised someone's name. I've never spoken about a story and I've said who this individual is. But some of the stories I've had, people have confessed to murder.
Wow.
They've told me they have and this is not like, I murdered someone 4 years ago. This is like 6 months ago, bro.
Wow.
I put a knife through someone's lung and I watched them gasp for air. And you're not going to have friends in your phone book that speak like this, that act like this, that do this kind of stuff. But you are going to have to accept who comes in your chair and what they say to you. I could have turned around and said, I need to go to the police about this. This is serious stuff. But thankfully, it never happened in England. So it's very hard for me to be able to convince police that, especially after a conversation in a barbershop. I've had people confess murders to me. I've had people confess crimes that would hurt you, would rip your heart out. Like, it shouldn't be. I've had to stop some customers returning to me because some of the things that they've opened up and said to me, which are really...
And for some reason, they feel comfortable enough in that chair to confess to everything.
They say everything. I have a good friend who's a female. I've known her for over 25 years. And in the time I've known her, her partner has been a good friend to me. He's committed so much adultery on her that I can't say anything. If I try to say anything, I'm possibly breaking up a family.
Homewrecker, yeah.
I'm possibly coming in to be a homewrecker. But at the same time, I lose to close people to me. You can't buy 25 years of friendship. So for me, it was a case of like, I'm holding something from you and it hurts me. I can't say this out loud, but I've got to respect his decisions.
Yeah.
I'm in dilemmas, man. I'm in crazy. So one of the biggest, forget everything that people have done that's wrong. Forget the crimes and anything that they've done. The biggest thing that I've found deeper than deep is the mental health. I've stumbled across this to the point where I want to make a difference now. I want to step into this light where I can see what kind of change I can do, because it's inspired me enough to be able to know if I'm in this position where people reach out and talk to me, there must be something I can do back. There are people, depression is real. Anxiety is real. Self-harm is real. Isolation is real. Pain, trauma, suffering is real for men.
Yep.
Women go through this all the time, and unfortunately we are the cause of a lot of this destruction. But women have got to the stage where they're able to understand this is something that happens to us more than men. But when it does happen to us women, we have so many different venues and so many different resources to go down for help.
And it's not as taboo to speak about these things.
It's not as taboo. For men, it's hard. It's hard because we lack, there's a trust issue. Men have a trust issue with whoever they're speaking to about whatever. We find it hard to be able to tell you something deep, and this is why I question why they tell me. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm more than happy to be their trustworthy barber and a friend in their life. Yeah. But they could have gone to a counselor and told this shit to. They could have gone to a therapist and told this shit to. So I have to sit there and question, why are they offloading this onto me? Yeah. What is it that I'm supposed to be like helping out for? So when I hear about men having difficulties opening up and speaking out loud, I'm obligated to turn around and say, there is a way, bro. There is a way. I had mentioned to you that I come from a religious background, but now I'm spiritual. I'm very spiritual. So I focus a lot on myself and how to better myself. It's a difficult journey. It's tough. You go through your own problems and fights. But one of the things that had helped me a lot was meditation. So I would always use this as a means of them to be able to turn to something. Because it's hard to speak out to people, I'm trying to teach them how to speak within to themselves. So I'm trying to teach them that they can find the answers within. So meditation helps a lot. And what I have found is people are responsive to what I say. They're responsive to the ideas and the options I give them towards spirituality. Many people are confined in religion, and many people find it difficult to steer into something like spirituality because they feel as though they're steering away from what they believe in. But in reality, for you to call yourself religious, you also have to believe you have a spirit. And so spirituality is where the spirits, where we focus the most on. Religion is very community-based. Spirituality is very individually based. So at the same time, when I'm trying to give people hope, what we call this in spirituality is shedding light. You're being a light worker. So my job is to hear them out. I'm hearing these stories, but then I also give them my personal number and say, yo, shout me anytime you need, bro. You know, if you want to get away, if you want to have a little drink somewhere, if you want to go for a little smoke, for a little walk, give me a call. I'm more than happy to be your ears, because it's not about hearing your problems that give me a thrive, or I get excited over your pain and your trauma. It's I can show you an option, and to me that's spirituality. So for me, I always jump to the occasion of being able to be a helping hand, because it helped me. I saw when I was in the dark, when I was lost, how do I get out of this? And for me, it was the answers were within. So I found a huge link between the male customers that I have, and the moment they sit down on my chair, the whole thing changes. We are speaking about things that are hard for you to open up to, and they are seeking for a solution. My outlook now is to say, I'm trying to think now, how else can I do this? My goal is to be able to open a barbershop where I have honest and trustworthy barbers, even if I'm not in the picture and they're in there by themselves, they're delivering a good standard of work. But the idea is to offer a sanctuary, maybe an area within that barbershop, maybe a room, that when the world becomes too tough, it's free of charge. I seek no money to help you spiritually. So when you're feeling blue, when you just receive the worst news in the world, it doesn't have to be about haircutting, it doesn't have to be about fashion or music, because that's what typically the barbershop tries to portray, being that fun community. Do you know what I mean? You can go in there, listen to great music, go in there, talk about community, this and that. It doesn't have to be about that. It can be the case of you coming there because you just want somewhere where you can just sit and not have nothing to talk about.
Yeah.
Just for you just to be feeling somewhere safe. Just somewhere where you can just, So for me, it's a case of whether you want to come there or talk, whether you want to come there to be alone, whether you want to come there to learn. Because I've got to the stage now where I know how to cut hair. I'm good with people. So what's the next best thing? I could teach. If I'm good with people and I'm good with hair and I can teach you how to be good with barbering, I don't see why that's going to be stopping me. So my main focus now is to those aspiring barbers and those people that are looking to get into the industry. I'm more than happy to discuss options that can help you get to the stage where you want to get to. When you become a customer of mine, and even if you're not a customer of mine, I want to create an area or a place or a revenue that you could turn to and feel it's okay. I'm a guy, I'm going through trauma, but it's okay. These people that I'm going to go speak amongst or around, they've gone through similar trauma.
And they're not going to judge me.
And they're not going to judge me, The reason why I like the idea that it being free is because anytime you go to a counselor or therapist, now you have to pay for your sessions. Now, okay, you're feeding, it's their livelihood. You've got to support that therapist. But my livelihood comes from the barbering. For me to be able to earn my money comes from that. And I never think about, I'm not heavily worrying about too much about, my prices and such. Because if I focus on everything else, that comes in abundance. And when I say in abundance, I mean new clientele business. I can cut your hair today, and tomorrow you can walk past someone in Tesco's and say, excuse me, I'm so sorry, but that haircut is dapper and you look amazing. Where can I get that? It's my business card. Your haircut is my business card. So I don't have a problem with the money, because I get customers of abundance that come to me that want a good service, that want an honest service. At the same time, I want to introduce this option where you're able to say, can I talk? You got free time. If it's something that I can't help with, like what your problem talking to me is, then I can guide you into the meditation side of things. You understand? Alongside that, it's not just about the haircut. It's also where the hair and skincare products come in. Because this is how I then become more connected with my customers as opposed to just a basic barber. So there's a lot of things that I'm within the hair industry that I'm realizing I could open doors in, especially.
So you see there's room for improvement in the industry, and obviously you'll tackle the industry differently to how it's currently being tackled.
Yeah.
You'd offer a 360
Correct.
degree.
There is currently something that there is going on in the UK. It's an organization called Man Cave. And Man Cave are really, really good at what they do. But I don't know the true depths of Man Cave, because what they do, they'll post up like places they'll be. So they might be in, I don't know, London, Piccadilly at this barbershop, or they might go to this barbershop in Newcastle. So when these events are on, then people are then encouraged and invited to come down, and they would sit on a stage, 4 or 5 people, and then, you know, people as crowds, and they would attend this. I don't want that, because that is more a case of you're only coming because there's an event on. I don't want to create opportunities that only I'm free for you. I want to create the opportunity where I'm your barber and I run this barbershop. And in this barbershop, it's not your normal barbershop. You're going to come in there and you're going to feel a completely different feel to it. Because most barbershops are run by a business-minded barbershop. I come from a corporate business-minded world. So I'm creating this something that can mix the two in. You're going to walk into that barbershop and you're going to be like, yo, this is a different feel. I like what this feel is. The energy is different. I feel as though, okay, you're going to meet barbers and hairdressers that are passionate about what they do. They can understand the game plan that I understand, and how we can all eat from this, how we can all grow from this. So the team that I'm going to create is going to reflect on exactly what I'm referring to about this whole therapist and the counseling thing. Because this guy might be scared to open up to me because I'm a male, but he might be all right open up to the female.
Right.
You understand? So I want to create something where people have no reasons not to open up to. And then at the same time, to put the icing on the cake is when you do take your time to find a moment with this barber, or you go into this part of the barbershop where you can feel as though you can just sit and relax. It's free. You don't have to feel as though you're forced to attend something like those events. They'll be paying to get in just to be able to be part of that conversation. I don't want that. I want you to be able to sit down, and if you're going to take my time, I'll give you my time. I promise you, if I'm fully booked in the day, but I've got an hour to spare, there's nothing that's going to stop me from me being able to hear what you've got to say. Because the hour makes a difference for you. The hour makes a huge change in your day.
It could be the make or break.
It could be the make or break. So I've had customers that, like, I've cut their hair, and then they would go off. And this is the early days, and I'd message them and I'll say, yo, how's your haircut? Everything good? Like, are you happy with it? And they'll say, yeah, I'm blessed, blah, blah, blah. The next day they'll be like, yo, I'm in the area, you free? And I say, yeah, come through. Thinking that they want maybe a cleanup or something, or they're not happy about something. But more time it's, no, just wanted to come and say, hey man, just chill and just catch up. Now, remember, I'm the only one in my space. I'm not working in a shop with other people. I'm in my house. And as I'm cutting, he still wants to make time to come out. He's not coming to the shop because of everyone else. He's coming directly for my purpose, for my presence. Yep. So I've realized, okay, this is a different ball game now. Now I understand that if I'm going to go into this, I've got to give someone the feeling of being welcomed. You know, the feeling of that we can help you, and it can come through easy ways, man. Meditation is, you can meditate for 10 minutes every day. And that 10 minutes every day will change your whole dynamics of the day. You will not believe how different and positive your day can be if you don't try and meditate at the beginning. Like, so that's what I try to, like, illustrate onto my peoples, onto my friends, onto my families. It's a difficult thing to do. Don't get me wrong. Not everyone's going to grasp onto the idea and run with it. But for me, it's about giving an option.
That's very inspirational, that you give people the ability to sit down and open up and talk about their inner demons, and in a place that's safe and welcoming.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, it's a tough little role to do, but I think it's about you. You know what I mean? That's the difference between a lot of barbers. Some barbers don't care what you have to say to them. Some barbers will tell you their problems and be like, oh, sorry, mate. As a person telling someone your problems, opening up, you don't want to hear that.
No.
You'd rather hear someone giving a bit of support, love, something that just makes you feel a bit more like wanted, like safe. So it's a tough role to take on, but it's not necessary. You don't have to. There are people that are just gifted. There are people that are just blessed with empathy. So it's easier for them just to be able to help, to be helpful. But there are people who just, they don't care. They want to come there, chop your hairs, go home. So fortunately, that's just how it works. But I'm trying to create something that's slightly different.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, I certainly do wish you the very best, my brother, and I have no doubts that you'll be able to create such an incredible environment and a place for people to not only get their haircut, but to build communities and relationships with other people as well. And I have no doubts that you will do that. But I appreciate your time very much. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. We will definitely repeat this again at some point as well.
For sure. I was just going to say, if whoever's, people watching and they may be interested in a bit more information or even just want a haircut, my Instagram, the socials, I can tell you that's OBFuego, OBFuego. And the brand of my company is called Asante. And Asante is the word from the language, Swahili language, which means thank you. So I'm I'm creating a brand which is a bit more family orientated, which has a lot of meaning behind it. I'm thankful for you coming to me. And I know the only thing you end up being is thankful. So Asante is a very powerful, it's got powerful meaning behind it. And I hope when you come across to find my brand sooner than later within Milton Keynes and follow me on Instagram, you should be able to see a lot of the positive impact I want to make. And also with the hair and skincare products. So I make my own hair and skincare products to help customers grow hair, people who are suffering from alopecia, psoriasis, balding, thinning. I actually make my own hair growth oil. So people who have any confidence issues in that region, I can give you organic, essential oils, paraben free, chemical free. Everything is from the origin source of the land. So if it's ylang oils, they come from China, or if it's shea butter oils, it comes from Ghana. So everything is sourced from it to give you the actual pure essence of the product. So I'm trying to diving into the hair and skincare products line, health and mental health and safety in regards to just you coming around and just giving you just general haircut. So find me on social media, and hopefully sooner than later you should see a shop pop up in Milton Keynes. Amazing.
I'll link all the socials down below as well, and we'll definitely do another podcast where we dive more into the skincare products, the hair care products, and what someone can do to take care of themselves in that regards as well. But once again, brother, it's been a beautiful 3 hours with you, man. I enjoyed every minute of it. I learned a great deal.
Time flew, and it's like,
oh man, time flies when you're having fun, man, and you're having enlightening conversations. I learned a great deal, man. I want to thank you for coming down.
Thank you, I appreciate it so much.
Feel free, ladies and gentlemen, to check out the socials down below in the description. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you give this video a like, comment, let us know what you enjoyed the most. And if you're new here, consider subscribing for more weekly podcasts. Take care.